Soul Night Live, number 48. Tonight, my guest is Greg Lee of the Yacht Rock Revue, and we'll be talking about the history of yacht rock. Good evening. Thanks for taking the time to go over this wonderful music with me.
Thanks for having me. It looks like you got a pretty wide array of yacht rock laid out there for us tonight.
yeah, I mean, and that was just kind of with my beginner kind of thing, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like the first 10 I grabbed out of the stack today that I haven't already talked about. It's like when I do 10 of these every week after a while, that's, quite a few records. It's like if I do too many, I'm going to run out and have to start over again. So I keep going to the store and buying more, actually. All that Jackson Brown I just picked up this week. And it was just like, I can't believe I didn't already own these. These are great.
Thanks, Riley.
Such good stuff. So tell me how you've been spending your days lately.
A lot of them look like this on video calls, and I've been doing a weekly broadcast here from my studio room in my basement, and occasional forays into the public to play safe gigs. I had a big gig north of town a couple of weeks ago that in the Ameris Amphitheater parking lot we did a drive-in show, and a lot of brave souls came out in the rain and enjoyed some yacht rock with us and honked their horns from their cars.
Well, that sounds totally safe. Now, is the Revue the only group that you're in, or do you do some other musical stuff as well with other people?
Yeah, I have a couple of side projects with a lot of the guys in the band. Namely, there's one called Forever 78 or Forever 1978 that I do with Mark Binkuya and Mark Donnells, who are the keyboard player and guitar player of Yacht Rock, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
And we do kind of the softer side of yacht rock stuff that might not go over at a show where everyone's putting their fist in the air and drinking beer, but
Right.
definitely supper club sit down stuff that has great harmonies and is killer
Now,
pops.
are they all from 78, or is that kind of a loose rule?
It's a loose definition.
Okay, that's cool. Ain't nobody going to
We
be,
basically play good music that we love.
ain't nobody going to be going, wait a minute, this was 1976. What are you doing? Well, that's cool. So, tell us how the Yacht Rock Revue came together and how you wound up playing this music.
Well, now all the catalog that we talk about is canon yacht rock stuff. Of course, I listened to growing up as a kid. My mom and dad played Kenny Loggins and Robbie Dupree all over the house and stuff. So flash forward to 2007, and the nucleus of the band had been put together doing uh, some tribute acts. Our singer Nick was booking every Thursday at a local club called the Ten High, and we had been putting random tribute acts and weirdness in there on his calendar of Thursdays. And one night, Nick reached out and said that the drummer Mark Cobb had a playlist called the Dentist Office playlist that that we wanted to do an AM Gold night, and that's where we were going to get started. And they wanted me to join them, and we had done stuff together before as well, playing bass with their core group of guys, and put together this show that started off sort of as a variety with some guests, but we did it a couple of times like that. It was great fun, a lot of success. And then early in 2008, we played it without the guests. We decided, hey, what if we played it without the guests and we could see if this is worth doing? And we put together a show, and it was great. And the guy who runs the club called us the next day and said, I just want to let you know I'm going to put this genre of music in here weekly based on what I saw last night, and I'm going to give you first crack at that. And we were like, okay, we'll take it. And off we were, just seeing what it was like. And that first summer was asses to elbows in there. It was crazy. We were like, what just happened? And it was a lot of just, having fun and having a residency. And if, that's a real comforting thing to have. That really helped us build the band.
Oh, sure.
We played
Now,
this,
were you already aware of the Yacht Rock parody thing, or was that before it really broke big on YouTube?
I want to say that the Nick and Pete guys, the Venkmans guys, and their friends Mark Cobb, the Indiana camp, was aware of those videos. I wasn't aware of the Channel 101 videos until we first started doing the Yacht Rock, we had the first meeting about songs, and they showed me the videos. Look at this. This is really funny, and it was, oh, this is great. And I didn't realize until many years later that by the time we were being aware of that, they had already been invited to sit in the front row at Michael McDonald shows in Orange County, and Michael would come out with the captain's hat on and like make fun of them making fun of him and have a good time with it and show his support and stuff. So that I thought that was really cool, and they really did. J.D. Reisnar and David Lyons and those guys really did coin that term. It seems like I haven't heard anybody claim it before then.
No, I guess not. I guess that's kind of where it all started was with that series. Now, was that like on some cable access channel before it made it to YouTube?
My understanding is it was just a collective of filmmakers and movie people and comedians and stuff that hung out together in Los Angeles. And at the time, it included Sarah Silverman and some really good names, and they would get together and show each other's work because they had nowhere else to do it, and it was kind of like a membership club, and you would show up and play your movie for all the other people that were in your industry, and it was cool. And these videos had a breakout success initially through that, is what I understood. It's kind of a group. And they made like 9 or 10 of them, right? I think they
I think there's 12 actually.
Yeah,
but, there's really 11 because one is about Jethro Tull for some weird reason. Which the prog guy in me is like, yeah, but the rest of me is kind of like going, huh? But whatever. Apparently somebody in that camp really loved Tull, or they wouldn't have bothered to do it, So
they seem. I've talked with them plenty of times, and they seem to be really genuine music fans and fascinated by the cornucopia of personalities that made music in the 70s, but that whole 70s vibe, they're like, there's something here, and it's a wonderful, like, you got to give them props for coming up with a brand that would stick, because
and just to basically it's the only genre that got named decades later because of a parody of it. I mean, that'll never happen again. I mean, that's a once in a lifetime thing. Prog rock should be so lucky. People make plenty of fun of it, but it never really inspired the name.
Right, and it never had that prog rock never had that sexiness that yacht rock seems to have.
Yeah, quite the opposite.
Yeah.
But as unsexy as you get. It's like, you like songs in 11, baby? Yeah. Try to dance into this. Yeah. So well, it's interesting. It was fun kind of trying to trace back to what I thought was the first yacht rock tune. And, it's a little cloudy once you get back in around 1972 or so. But
yeah.
I mean, you tell me if you agree. I mean, I think it's basically just what we called soft rock back in the day. But as the 70s kind of wore on, it got a little less soft and but slick, because I wouldn't necessarily call Peg from Steely Dan soft rock, not like If from Bread or something like that. That's soft, so it's kind of interesting, the stuff that falls in that camp. But it seems like it kind of started as soft rock and then kind of grew from that point.
I agree.
Yeah,
it's a great genre because it has so many different elements that, like you just said, Bread and Steely Dan in the same sentence,
right?
And then you got to think of Toto and some other stuff that's even more polished.
Hall & Oates. Hall & Oates had a great career long before Private Eyes. They've been at it for about 10 years at that point. And all of those records are great. I'm actually put a few in the presentation we'll talk about. I thought we'd talk about the obvious big Mac daddies of the genre, Steely, Loggins, Michael McDonald, Toto, Ambrosia, and then kind of go into the one-hit wonder kind of list, or lesser. I shouldn't say lesser, but you know what I mean. Like there's a string of, I don't want to say one-hit wonders, but
certainly those guys who had 4 or 5 hit songs are a different league, than the ones who only had 1 or so.
Yeah,
but they're still all out there. It's great.
That's great. And there's just certain things that tie it all together in my mind. The production values are all usually really high. I think Steely had a lot to do with setting the bar higher and everybody kind of going, oh, that's how I want my record to sound.
Yeah.
And then it kind of like Boston did with the rock guys, kind of the same 70s kind of, oh my God, I want my record to sound like that. And so these tunes, yeah, they all have great production, and they're majority of them are kind of harmonically uptown. There's a lot of slash chords in these songs. And in
Great.
case you guys don't know what a slash chord is, it's kind of a quick notation for musicians that says something like, play an E major chord here, but put this bass note under it instead of E, like B. Yeah, exactly. And just you get some of the most lush chords by going that route. Basically they're like major ninths, 11ths, all that kind of stuff, kind of upper partials. But for the sake of brevity, we just call them slash chords. And it has nothing to do with Guns N' Roses.
Right. It's nothing to do with Slash. But
Yeah. You will not get slash chords out of Slash.
Oh, yeah.
Very unlikely.
Slash chords. He's a very educated man.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, well, cool. I guess we'll go ahead and get rolling with the presentation. And the first part of it is about you all and your doings as the Yacht Rock Revue, and then we'll talk a bit about the album you guys did, which I think is really cool. And it's a diverse thing musically. I mean, while you are the Yacht Rock Revue, I can't say that every song on that record makes me think of yacht rock. I think some of it's more modern than that. Would you agree?
I agree. I have to say, first of all, that Nick is the creative director as far as which way we decided to go with choosing a producer, and he wrote the majority of the songs, and he has such a good thing going as a writer and a creator of sounds. We felt confident when he told us Ben Allen was going to produce it, that we could come up with something that was maybe closer to an attempt at a timeless record that could exist in different times, rather than a record that sounded dated. Because we had done some recordings in the past where we went just straight into the genre and orchestrated everything to feel more yacht rock in more early 80s and stuff. And it didn't feel like it was honest enough. And this feels honest, and I really love the direction it went. I don't think we could have enjoyed it as much and have been as proud of it as we are if we didn't take a swing at making a fully original thing.
Well, I think that was the best way to go, because I could see how if you tried to cop that whole late 70s thing, it could come off as being a little, a little obvious, I guess. Yeah. And although with the name, that's the first thing you think, oh, it's going to sound just like, whatever. But no, it isn't. And that was kind of a pleasant surprise. I think the first single reminded me of Prince more than anything from the 80s or the 70s. I mean,
thank you.
In a good way.
Yeah, so, that's great.
Definitely. Well, cool. All right. Well, let me fire up this thing here real quick.
Okay.
And we will disappear into a little corner of the screen. You know how this works.
Yep.
Sure. Okay. So let's see here. Share screen. Alrighty. Doesn't that look peaceful? So I got to ask, how many times have you guys played on like a big cruise ship and that kind of stuff?
14, 15, 16.
Okay.
We started working for Six Man in 2010 and did a bunch right away. And but lately we've only played on the train boat for the last 5 or 6 years.
Oh yeah, I was in the t-shirt business for many years, and there was a guy that always came to me to do his train. It's like, sail around the sun, put that on the back of my shirt.
Sail across the sun. Yep.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Very cool.
Very fun.
Fun. Do you feel like just like, I don't know, like all the pieces are in place when you're playing this music out on the high seas?
There is 3 or 4 different stages on those big boats. There's like an indoor theater stage and a club stage. And then there's the stage that they set up out on the deck. Mm-hmm. And I have to say that because it's almost, more than half the times you're scheduled to play out on the deck, you get moved because of weather and you never get to do it. But when you do get to play a gig on the deck, especially at night, with the wind blowing and you're in a moving cruise ship, it is like you are on like the stuff that the guy takes in Wonder Woman to make him insane, like the
Oh yeah, yeah, that's
you're on this incredible power
okay.
trip and there's extra energy and everyone feels it, and it's literally like you're standing on the surface of the sun just blazing. And so it's, even if the show is loose, it's not really that bad. It's great. I've seen other bands go through it in front of me, and then I've been through it. And the in fact, the guys in Train saw us for the first time doing a U2 show. We had a U2 band that we did for a while because we just did all these different shows, and we have a top shelf Beatles band, and same guys, just different configuration. And I play second guitar in the U2 band, and the U2 band out on that stage, Nick just sings the shit out of that, and it was like magical. And they're like, those guys need to be on our cruise ship, and we're like, cool. And we set it up, and they're like, they do what? You know, like weeks later, they're like, they play what? And they saw the Yacht Rock show, and they're like, what? They had us come on their ship and do 3 different shows that were all different shows, like a Yacht Rock show, a Dazed and Confused show, and the U2 show, or a Rolling Stones show, and a Beatles show, and a Yacht Rock Revue show. And for a few years, that was kept us on our toes.
Oh, I can imagine. Well, that's
Yeah,
a
a lot of
great
things
way to
ready.
go. Yeah, I know. I've noticed that you guys have been out in different configurations over the last 10 years, just kind of keeping my eye on the scene around town. And you guys always set the bar really high. Your attention to detail is flawless. And I think that's one of the great things about you guys. You're not going to settle for 85%. It's not like you're not going to settle for that keyboard sound that's almost like the record. You're going to make them find the right one, and they're not going
Yeah.
to play with you.
Well, they'll make themselves find it.
Yeah.
There's a real camaraderie of excellence in this group, and it's been there from the very beginning. And it's, one of the ways musicians can tell the one musician from another musician is what their definition of "I learned it" is. Like how far they're willing to go in terms of, instead of making up an ostinato because they're in a hurry that sounds kind of like that line, our guys will sit there and transcribe the damn thing and play it exactly as it is, so that there's no doubt in your mind. And that difference, like, we all inspire each other to be better all the time.
So, do you guys just do it all by ear, or do you do it, with transcriptions, or you just make all your own, or does every song kind of different?
To an extent, every song's different, but I mean, not really. Since the first few months of doing this, it's been like, someone sends an email that says, do this version of this song, and make sure everybody knows that to learn the same version, and then show up at soundcheck with your shit together. And if it has vocals, Nick will usually break down what he wants people to sing and cover, and the 2 keyboard players put their heads together on the side and find out who's going to play the string part and who's going to play the piano part. And everybody gets it together beforehand, because rehearsal is, you rehearse the songs, and practice is what you do at home.
Exactly right.
We all agree on that.
Yeah, well, sure. You guys are seasoned pros, so yeah, that's how it goes down. I've been part of this local collective for a number of years that Adrian Ash heads up, called the Bad Ash Crew, and we did a number of tribute shows. Once a year we do a Steely Dan night at the Velvet Note, and each year we play a different album top to bottom. Pretty much, we kind of worked our way through the catalog, and we did a lot of theme shows over at the Avondale Cinema before it got bought out and recreated into a rock venue, which it is now. Have you seen any pictures of Avondale Cinema since they fixed it up?
What's the Avondale Cinema? Oh, you mean the yeah, that I
Town
know what
Cinema.
you're talking about. Yeah, right downtown in the
Yeah,
in
and
the
the little kind of looks like the
Avondale.
Swedish block.
Uh, I have seen some pictures of the inside. It's the 37 Main guys,
Yeah.
and
So
they
it's,
put their brand of decor in there, black and
yeah,
like steel and kick
lots
plate.
of brushed chrome and such. Yeah, it looks amazing. I'm kind of
Their
stunned.
venues are always really kind of badass.
Yeah, they really are. Whether or not they're just going to do tributes is yet to be seen. That theater used to have quite a variety musically in it, and I think that's just because Decatur's kind of like that. They're hip to a lot of different kinds of music, so hopefully they'll loosen the reins a bit and mix it up and let some jazz guys play in there occasionally and stuff too. But I don't know. It's
I've
not
been
my baby.
listening a
It's
lot
a,
over the
love
years.
playing there. But yeah, we did a number of tribute nights. Like every month we do a tribute to a different rock band. And one of my favorite ones was a night we did Kenny Loggins versus Michael McDonald. And, and I don't know exactly who won. I think in hindsight, the Loggins stuff is more fun in a live setting. Uh, and the Michael McDonald is more satisfying from a theoretical standpoint. I mean, digging into some of his songs is like playing Steely Dan stuff. It's
They're both really insane writers, man. They talk about slash chords.
oh
Forget
god, yeah. Like the intro to Minute by Minute. I mean, every beat is a different one.
triplets,
Flying
three over
ball.
four. It's six. It's like a 6/4 thing that's bizarre to try to play and count
Yeah.
at the
Do you
same
guys do
time.
that one?
What's that?
Do you guys do that one?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Good, good, good. Yeah, I love that. That's one of
That's
the
a
best.
yacht rock anthem. I think we can both agree that that hits checks all the boxes.
You know it. No, all right. Let me go ahead and let this back. It's like when we talk too long, I try to get out of the presentation because it's almost claustrophobic to sit in it for too long, if that makes any sense.
Man, I feel you.
So anyhow, yes. So number 48 with my co-host Greg Lee, and here you guys are on the high seas. Do you remember what cruise this was?
I want to say this is about 4 years ago, and probably on the train cruise because those are pretty recent acquisitions. Oh, in the last 5 or 6 years, we bought those. Are all custom made suits by our friend Kim Dilla of Killa Rockwear. Kim Dilla Custom Rockwear. Kim
Okay.
Dilla Custom Rockwear. KYMDYLLA. And she's out of Charlottesville, Virginia, and she handmade all those suits, and also
Wow.
has a insane death metal. She's a fantastic death metal kind of singer. She used to be in Guar, and
Oh wow.
yeah, and she and Monkey Boy have a side project that now the name is escaping me, but I'm sure you can find out.
Anywhere in Guar should wear latex so they can clean up after the show quickly.
Yeah,
Because there's all kinds of fluids floating around any one of their shows. It's like, don't wear your nice shirt and stand in the front row at a Guar show. You should know better.
boobs are gonna shoot something on you.
Yes.
She had the boobs costumes that would just like eject items all over you. It's great.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, she made those suits, and that was probably one of those train cruises. And we probably had to immediately step into those doors on our right and play a set because typically we would try to get somewhere dressed out a few minutes early and take a quick picture. And the sixth man who runs these cruises, their staff photographer that they hire all the time, is a guy from Chicago named Will Byington. And he has shot many of our most used photos over the years on these cruise ships. And also, we meet him in Chicago and have fun and shoot photos too.
Well, the weather is awesome there.
That was
Would you believe that there's a progressive rock cruise as well? It's like everybody's doing these days. But you know what? It always rains.
Progressive Rock Cruise.
Yeah, the prog rock. Yes does one. It's called Cruise to the Edge.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's pretty neat. But yeah, I haven't gone, but I wouldn't mind. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about cruises, especially nowadays. It just seems like a big germ factory floating on the
Oh
sea. But
yeah, yeah. Right
so,
after the election last cycle in 2016, we in November were on a Star Trek cruise, the first ever Star Trek cruise, and it had all kinds of personalities from the next generation. And William Shatner was the host.
oh
And,
wow.
and yeah, and I found myself in a weird conversation about the incoming administration with the guy who played Q.
Oh,
And then we watched William Shatner debate the nature of God with a fighter pilot and an astrophysicist in front of a crowd. It was really bizarre, but they were the best guests, the most conscientious and politest people on that cruise. But man,
Yeah,
that was something.
I would think so. Did you boldly go where no one had gone before?
Only at the bar.
Okay, I was just saying the only time I did is when I mistakenly went in the ladies' room.
Oh yeah,
No man is
Not
gone
that
before.
well.
That's right. Okay. And then here, remember the time you guys got sucked into the peppermint vortex? Yeah. What
Yes,
was
I
that like?
do.
How
That
sweet it was. Hmm. Yeah.
uh, that was up in Candyland or whatever in north of town. There's like a Santa's Candyland thing that all the kids go to take pictures with their parents, and we just bum rush it with a bunch of dudes in matching suits.
That's perfect. It's perfect. Next, you can take over a bouncy house. That'd be a good picture too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that
would
happened.
suggest that. All right. All right. So we were talking about your album, and this is the one, Hot Dads in Tight Jeans, which is
Mhm.
your first album of original music. And where's a good place to get this?
You can get this just about anywhere. There's iTunes, CD Baby, Spotify. It is all over the place. If you'd like a vinyl copy, you can go to pleaserock.com, and there are 12-inch vinyl copies. There's also some 7-inch singles of the Doobie Brothers backed with a cover of What a Fool Believes
Oh,
that we did for Record Store Day, and that's also available at pleaserock.com. And yeah, I just can't tell you how much fun it was to make this album. Ben is an absolute pro.
I really dig the videos too. I mean, they're really colorful and stick in your mind, you know. Um,
If you can believe it, that we the with the exception of the step video, we did the step video in one day, but we went to shoot all those skits that they cut up in the Bad Tequila video. Is probably 8 different skits, and we shot it all in one massive day at one studio. Like sound, we all showed up at like 8 in the morning and left at 8 at night, and managed to get enough footage to do 6 like 10-minute comedy videos that they made those happen by themselves, and then they spliced them all together to make the music video for Bad Tequila.
okay, yeah. And
And
where
those,
what
if
was
you
that
look for
done
those,
here in Atlanta?
no, he is in Los Angeles. His name is John Danovic, and he's great. Oh my God, he's a ninja. He had this shit half done before he left that day.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, folks, look them up on YouTube and check out the album. If you like what you hear, well, you know where to get it at, and support original music
Yeah,
and covers as well. But yeah, well, very cool. All right, well, there you go, and there you go. Remember when you got um, shipwrecked and you were on that island for months and your suits got really smelly?
this is Nassau,
Oh, nice.
and this is again Will Byington from Six Man. A couple years before that other shot, and someone sent an email before the cruise and said, "Bring something that you don't mind getting wet." And so you probably found a picture on the internet of us up to our chests and
I
water.
did. I'm saving that for the very end, but
Oh, well, that's the same day,
yeah.
and yeah, and we'll get to that when we get there. But yeah, there was a bunch of people wondering what the hell we were doing on that beach,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
just
Not
out of
exactly,
fun.
not exactly beach attire, but it looks great. You look like you just walked out of a 70s cop show,
Dude, it has a very Band on the Run kind of like only like island version of Band on the Run, where it because everybody has their character look going
Yeah. Meets a
and
little bit of, have you ever seen Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Love Beach album?
no,
It has a bit of that. It's like the typical open chested Bee Gees kind
yeah,
of posing kind of thing. Yeah, man.
and Cody looks like Telly Savalas in that one. I always think Dave looks like G. Gordon Liddy on the saxophone.
That'll work. Yeah, no doubt, man. Or Tony Levin. That's like, I
Little,
didn't know Tony
little
Levin played
tiny
sax.
11.
Yeah, totally, man. Alrighty. Well, I thought we'd start with Steely Dan because, in a way, I think they kind of set a certain standard that all of these artists kind of follow when it comes to production and things like that. Oh, hold on. We got to talk about the web series first, real quick.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So I had mentioned that this genre, has been around, but I don't think anybody really called it a genre per se. But in the mid 2000s, this parody series came out, which you can see on YouTube now, all 12 episodes. And, this is, by the way, that's Steve Perry, not Joe Perry, Steve Perry there in the red
Oh,
get
yeah.
up there. Yeah, that's right.
Is that Don't
And
Fight It? Is that their version of the
yeah,
Don't Fight
yeah,
It?
yeah, man. Which is such a funny song. The best part's the harmonics at the beginning. That's my favorite part. That's a great riff.
That is Neil Giraldo from Pat Benatar's band.
Oh, there you go. You know, he's the one that
Kenny
did.
told us that he just showed up with two Marshall stacks and a Strat and did that shit just on the fly and played all the. They did that at Sound City, where all those, you've seen the Dave Grohl documentary, and
Yeah.
just like the money drum sounds and the Neil Giraldo. That's a dream right there. Woo,
Oh, yeah.
God.
Oh, he's just great, you know. And in case y'all don't know, it's Pat Benatar's husband. He's been her guitar player forever. So every time you hear a solo on one of her records, it's totally bitching. And he's done other ones like Jesse's Girl from Rick Springsteen. It's another great Neil solo. So
Springfield.
yeah,
Rick Springfield.
Springfield. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
But yeah, what a brilliant guy.
Anyway, here's a couple more. You know, the guy that got to do Kenny Loggins looks a bit like him. Michael McDonald, close enough. And then this is Hall & Oates at the bottom there, in case you're wondering. Oates is rather aggressive in this series. It's like, I think that's the funny thing, because nobody ever hears him say a word otherwise.
I mean, you say that they look like whoever, but I mean, it just looks like some dudes at a Williamsburg block party to me. I can't tell which one of them is supposed to be what guy from what era. I'd say there's a dude with a wig, but like, is he Oates, or is he Frank Zappa, or is he Denali? Is he
is he Cheech and he just stuck his finger in a light socket?
Right. Like, what's going on there? And it's like, is that Andrew McCarthy? Is like what?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, the guy that looks like Loggins, kind of passable. The rest of them, it's kind of like, who is that supposed to be? Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I know now. So anyhow, this is the show that kind of inspired the whole name of the genre.
Did inspire, for sure. Not kind of. Those guys are it, I think.
They did it. All right. Well, let's get rolling here with the Steely catalog real quick. And, I've loved Steely Dan since I was a little kid. And, something about this whole yacht rock thing just reminds me of sitting around with my little AM radio when I was like, 1978, like before I had money for records or even any of that, it's just like listen to the radio, and then maybe got a little cassette recorder. I'd record the songs off the radio badly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. You know the trick.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that tape recorder. Was my prized possession at the time. It was so cool to have one of those. So anyhow, I think Steely, kind of mutated into something more yachty as they went on, dissecting these albums over the years. I've discovered that, the harmony gets more uptown with every album. Not to say that there aren't some really sophisticated chords on the first album as well at times, but by the time you get to Gaucho, it's really rich and thick with all these big extensions on the chords and such. So it's kind of like, I think they progressed as they went along. Would you agree?
Yeah, I feel like that they're getting more collegiate with those chord voicings is more a product of them following a trend rather than leading a trend. And when I feel like Steely Dan is definitely one of the titans, but not necessarily the impetus, because of their inherent East Coastness, and they're also not as until later on, there wasn't as many of the yachty themes. There's no arguing that the lyrical themes on Gaucho like hit the bell right on, like nail the yacht rock target, but the lyrical stuff from the Can't Buy a Thrill record is really like their college Boston-y experience, like their real hard, dirty East Coast life. And it's complicated like that sonically too. It feels like you said, like they definitely grew more space. The trend in pop music was to have more space and have more backbeat and have the chords float over the stuff rather than the busier rhythms of My Old School and Reeling in the Years are so busy, and then comparing them to those later 1980 numbers are just like backbeats and chords and vocals, and that's it. It sounds so different.
Yeah, they really did evolve a lot. Early on they were it's more just a rock band, before the yacht arrived, I think. Although there are certain songs that sound like they could have come from that era. Do It Again, I think, is you know,
That
right
is
out,
definitely one of the seminal jams.
yeah, just right out of the gate. It's like, wow, you know, what this could have been on Gaucho or something, you know, but it wasn't. But, you know, just, you know, they had the smooth thing going from the get go, but it depends on the song. Depends on the song.
True. Yeah, I feel like they hit some stuff early with where they were experimenting with those Santana like grooves, and they're like, whoa, we could use other things and leave the space for people to hear them to give us a rhythm movement and not necessarily do it with chords. But then, of course, we can put four chords in a row that people will like argue about for years
Sure. Yeah.
for the turnaround that lasts one bar.
Sure. But, you know, I like surprises, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
Yeah, so bring it on. Okay, and then the next one, you know, their second album, Countdown to Ecstasy, you know, that
Yep.
has Biggie, My Old School on it. It's got some great deep cuts too. I think King of the World is one of their greatest tunes. That's just such an amazing. It's pretty dense though. Yeah, like we were saying, you know, there's a lot going on in that one. And there's some great deep cuts on here too. There's a really pretty tune on it called "Pearl of a Quarter." That's really nice.
Uh-huh.
Lots of good stuff. A Razor Boy, remember that one with the vibes on it? Really
Oh
nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
And who else would use vibes in a pop song in 1973? I mean, definitely Brandy and stuff like that was kind of happening at the same time, but that's under the tutelage of Arif Mardan and the real big Atlantic studio guys. But Steely Dan, come on.
Yeah. 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 And then this last one with the original band had Skunk Baxter and Danny Diaz on as kind of a two guitar team. Great two guitar team too. You know, Diaz was very much the jazzer, and Skunk was more the rock guy. And he also played great pedal steel and did a lot of country kind of stuff too. So they were a really good yin and yang, I think. That was different. You know, once on the next record they changed and went to Studio Cats, and it's a who's who of the most amazing players of the '70s. But that original band had a lot of cool mojo, and I think this is probably their most diverse album of the first three. You know,
Yeah.
this one goes a lot of places. They even cover a Duke Ellington tune, which is the only cover in their entire catalog. Uh, East St. Louis Toodaloo, which was a tune that he played at the I want to say the Cotton Club, like in the 20s. That was his theme song.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So that's going way back, and like Skunk like nails like this trombone solo on the pedal steel and stuff, just like perfectly. So if you ever had a chance to compare the two of them, the original and this, it's interesting how they kind of recreated the solos, but kind of played them on different instruments. Obviously, they
That's
didn't have
crazy. Okay, for
yeah, so
sure. I'll
that's
check out
cool.
the
Great
original.
stuff. Night by Night's a great yachty tune on this. I think probably one of the most yachty tunes from this particular era. Kind of slick. And then there's a lot of really kind of interesting deep cuts. You know, Charlie Freak and uh, forget Through with Buzz. That's like a
Yeah.
45-second tune. That's just a trip. Yeah, yeah. It's a really eclectic album, and I don't think they were as eclectic starting here. I think they started to kind of craft the songs to kind of hang together as a collective of tunes rather than a bunch of this and that mixed together. Um,
I
you know,
think
this one
this
has
is
Black
such a
Friday.
great record.
Yeah, it really is. And Doctor Wu is like top five Steely tune for me. And it really points to where they were headed next harmonically too. It's almost like a early version of Asia in some ways. There's a lot of the similar kind of drum solo-y kind of stabby things going on in there. So yeah, one of my favorites. Love that.
So much groove. That Black Friday groove is insane.
Yeah, well, you know, on this album they got a young guy named Jeff Porcaro to play
Oh
drums,
yeah,
along with Jim Hodder, the
he
original
was
drummer.
okay.
They had a two drummer lineup for that last tour, and then they got rid of Jim Hodder and kept Porcaro for this album, and that's why it's so damn cool. Not
Yeah,
to
see,
say they didn't work with other amazing drummers too, like Bernard Purdy, who almost became their go-to guy.
yeah,
They almost, you know, got to the point where it's like, well, we don't want to overuse that sound too much, but darn, it'd be nice to have him on this, you know. And you know, Kid Charlemagne is probably the
yeah.
biggie from this one, and one of the greatest guitar solos ever. I mean, man, I mean, Larry Carlton, that's his finest hour, I think. It's really good stuff. Don't Take Me Alive, that's another great one on here. Um, and the title track's really cool too, really laid back, moody kind of piece. And then, of course, here, they really struck gold with this one. And, the whole thing, front
This
to
is as
back.
yachty as Gaucho. Peg and Josie and Deacon Blues, all as yachty as anything out there, and it feels more California
Yeah,
than the other ones feel like they could still be an East Coast record, but this
very
is
true.
California all the way.
Yeah, well, they were ready to go use those California musicians just for the sake of a different vibe and a different approach. And they kind of, there's a great DVD out there about the making of this album where they talk about the differences between the New York guys and the LA guys. And it was just a different ballpark. The LA guys were a little more, I can't remember the reasons they explained, but yeah, they definitely, a new location provided a new sound for them in some ways. And Gaucho, of course, the follow up, which, Hey 19 is maybe the quintessential yacht track from them. Which one's your favorite Steely album?
I have to say either Gaucho or Katie Lied. But Gaucho is definitely one that um, is down deep in the psyche of my childhood, and one that my parents owned and played all the time. And so when I think of what a horn section should sound like, it sounds like they're layered saxophones that are on this record. And when I think of what a good vocal section sounds like, it's the way that they blend ladies and dudes together on this record, and a drum sound is kind of like right there, it is definitely the mothership of a lot of the yacht rock sounds, and sounds more California than anything they've ever done
I would agree with that.
before. Yes.
And, this is an interesting album in a number of ways. I don't know if you ever dug around on YouTube, but it was supposed to be a double. And the stuff that they left off is often as good as the stuff that made the cut. So yeah, definitely check them out there. Particularly, there's a tune called Coolie Baba, Kuleebaba, that is, even their leftovers they left on the cutting room floor are recorded better than most people's best stuff. So look up those
Yeah.
lost tracks. They're wonderful. And of course, that lost tune, the second arrangement. I'm sure you've heard about the one where the recording engineer accidentally recorded over half of it or something, and ran for his life out of the studio, knowing they were going to kill him, basically.
Oh no, I didn't
And,
hear that
and
story.
they
That's
were
cool.
so pissed off that they just shelved it and never released it. And somebody found a cassette copy of a mixdown of it at the producer's house. I forget his name, the guy that passed, Roger Nichols.
Uh huh.
Yeah, I think it was
A
there. And
partial or a full version?
yeah, like a full version. And in hindsight, I don't really think it's all that. I mean, it's a good Steely Dan tune, but I think there's better stuff on the album than that anyway. Just my 2 cents, but it's worth checking out. It's definitely there's a few versions that have been out there forever that sound like a 10th generation, you know.
Anything where a guy's running for his life.
Well, I mean, if you can imagine them
I've
just
been I've been in those shoes where when I did the wrong thing in the studio, and everyone looks at you and says, "What are you doing?"
well, you could just imagine them toiling over that for weeks.
Yeah.
Then, fuck, I'm screwed. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that became kind of legendary stuff. And one other thing I want to point out real quick is that tune "Third World Man" has an amazing solo from Larry Carlton on it.
What
That,
an incredible song.
you know what? It's funny though. That solo was actually put on a different song that they threw out and recreated the song that we know under it.
Really?
Yes.
They threw the vocal off and just rewrote it?
I think they did more than I think they did more than just rewrite it. I think they somehow wrote a completely different song and slipped it in under there
Good for them.
to
They
go with
used the solo that they loved in a song that they hadn't written yet.
yeah. Well, basically, they're like, we love this solo, we don't love this song. It's on too much, so let's write a better song to use the solo on. So
That's an amazing solo.
yeah, and who else could pull that off? It's like basically like like hold the roof up while we replace the house. Okay, put it on. you know, but if anybody would have the ability to pull that off, I think it would be them. So, anyhow, and one more one. I always consider this kind of a Steely Dan album as well. And
Me too, in a weird way.
oh
But
yeah, I mean,
this was they had music videos for this album that they didn't have for anything Steely Dan.
yeah, the one for New Frontier where they're hiding in the bomb shelter. Um,
And I
great.
listened to this for 10 solid years easily. Just like it's just a such a fantastic sounding album, and Marcus Miller and Anthony Jackson fucking killing it.
Abe Laboriel Sr. is on
Yes.
New Frontier. Will Lee is on Rock Between the Raindrops. A guy did,
Will
I think,
Lee, come on.
yeah. Uh, there. I saw a great bass tutorial where somebody did this recently. Look up a thing on YouTube called "The Bass Players of the Nightfly," and this guy sits there and goes through every song and tells you
Oh, really?
who did it
Okay.
and why, and yeah, all the little Marcus isms. He's like, yeah, look, like he slipped that in there just to kind of wink at you, like, look at me, I'm badass, that kind of stuff. So
Those
yeah,
guys are all like doing DeMarcus prototype, and the Anthony Jackson prototype. It feels like that those two guys are the godfathers of that tone, and they really took the foundation to Larry Graham and Louis Johnson and brought the next level. Although the Steely Dan guys made it, use of just about everybody you can think of: Chuck Rainey and Gary Granger and everybody.
sure.
Every studio player that I could name as an influence has played on multiple Steely Dan records, I would
Oh,
imagine.
yeah. Well, that was just like the jewel of everybody's resume to get to put that on there. It's like, that was it. To be playing
Yeah.
on a Steely record. I mean, come on, it didn't get any better than that. All righty. So, anyhow, people come to me occasionally and say, "What's like Steely Dan, but not Steely Dan?" And I'd say Michael McDonald era Doobies is probably as close as you can get without playing a Steely record. You think so?
I would agree, and more with the records that came after this, minute by minute, and yeah, because that's where you could tell you could really feel it that he was pushing the band to play the shit that they had never even conceived of in their lives, and created this tension. Everyone that was glorious, absolutely glorious in both minute by minute um, and the previous record, just fantastic examples of all these idioms. Now, J.D. Reisner and David Lyons have a podcast called Beyond Yacht Rock, where they talk about the genre incessantly, in endless episodes. And one of the things that they've identified as a musical characteristic of yacht rock, driven eighth note on the right hand with a piano, where all his piano parts have the dun 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 dun
True.
dun dun.
Yeah.
And he, and so many of his songs where the chords really pulse through eighth notes with the right hand all the way through the song, and that's a kind of a feel from that time that was mimicked in Steal Away, and all these other guys were also playing this similar feel. It was very topical in the moment, and the yacht rock guys started calling it the Doobie Bounce because
Ah,
Michael McDonald was pretty much the guy who came up with it. And it's a bouncy feel. I agree. It's straight. It's not necessarily shuffle feel. It's a straight eighth, but it's bouncy. And the phrase itself is the inspiration, and the song on our record called the Doobie Bounce. But it's nothing about the actual doobie bounce that those guys said. It's a different kind of doobie bounce. But that pulse, dun, 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 if you think about Steal Away, if you think about What a Fool Believes, if you think about um, the dun, 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 dun,
oh,
dun,
da- 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 da-
and
da-
then
da- da-
on you, yeah.
yeah. What's
Darling, you're on my side. Depending on you.
depending on you? That's right. Okay. I was thinking, darling, our
Yes,
love.
this is, and there's so many. Doobie Brothers songs from 76 through 78, 79, 80, where he has that's his piano part. It's an eighth note, and he's playing a wonderful syncopated dun dun left hand, or dun dun dun, that bass line from What a Fool Believes, dun, 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 dun. Who knows what kind of slashes are involved in those chords.
Yeah, right.
But he came up with it, and what a great, unique, like never again kind of chord progression. That's
Yeah,
just fantastic.
absolutely. So yeah, I think quarterly it's right up there with Steely. And it's interesting, I should point out before we go any further that, Michael first made his appearance on
Yeah,
a major
way back
record
here.
on Pretzel Logic, that stepped up to the platform, the man gave me the news. He said, "You must be joking, son. Where did you get those shoes?" That was a live thing that he did. He isn't actually on the record, but live, that was his big thing when he was touring with the band in 74. And then they actually got him on a record. That tune, Any World That I'm Welcome To, is probably the one that features him the most on this record. Um,
Yeah, the
although,
Black Friday
yeah,
vocals,
yeah,
and yeah, I
Bad Sneakers. I think he's probably on that too.
one year we had Bill Champlin from Chicago and Champlin Brothers and stuff, the wonderful singer and writer, sitting with us, and he told us this story that when he was just starting out before the Champlin Brothers got signed and stuff, the that he and Michael McDonald and Bobby Kimball would hire themselves out in the early '70s as a trio to do background vocals.
Oh,
And
wow.
then I later confirmed that with Bobby Kimball, that yes, in the number of sessions is, I can't remember how many sessions.
Oh, yeah. Well, I could imagine that was a heck of a blend. Wow.
What? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I
Those
know.
three.
Come on, get out of Dodge. It's like butter. Um,
Those, oh,
I'm getting a little. You're
but
getting.
Michael McDonald
You're getting a little sticky here. I hope your Wi-Fi is dependable. Do you have any way to?
connection.
Yeah. Do you have any way to
Let's
mainline
see.
it? Stick that Ethernet cord right in the computer.
Um, I actually do, but I'm afraid that I would it default to the Ethernet cord
Yeah, I think it
when it comes
notices the
in?
minute. I think the minute you plug it in, it goes, "Oh, okay, I'll use this." So I don't know. You might want to give it a shot.
I can do that, Sean. It'll take me about 3 minutes if you've got something to talk about.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure I could talk about something.
Hello?
Yeah.
How about three?
All right. Yeah, go for it.
I'll be right
Yeah.
back, my friend.
All righty. Well, I'll keep talking a bit about Michael McDonald with the Steely Dan. From what I understand, he moved to LA in 1972 and did a lot of session work around there, and probably the era with Bill Champlin and Bobby Kimball, I would imagine. And then in 74, he landed the gig with Steely Dan in their touring band for the Pretzel Logic tour. And then they started to use him as kind of a special seasoning in the background on so many of these different albums. He's basically on every record after that. Um, you've heard him on Kid Charlemagne singing "Get Along" and a few other tracks that are on this record as well. And of course, he's all over Asia. Pegged as like a multi-tracked choir of Michael McDonald's singing "Peg, Back to You" and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, this is probably the album that they used him on the most. And then I believe he's on Hey
I
19 as
came
well.
back.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna plug in this Ethernet if I can find out which way is up. and, and make it so. Number one, I believe I have an Ethernet on this laptop. Otherwise, we might be
It may be so new it doesn't. I actually had to go buy a little adapter and stick it in the USB port.
That's what she said. Oh, here it is. So I'm in that
Okay.
on Ethernet, and
All right.
let's see if it solidifies our connection, sir.
Well, so far so good. So cool. Okay. So anyhow, yeah, I
Yeah,
think through his work with Steely Dan, he wound up landing the Doobies gig, which totally redesigned them for the second half of the decade. And the Doobie Brothers wrote some great songs before he came along too. I mean, there's a long list of ones that Tom Johnston sang, but the Michael stuff was a different ballpark, but it was perfect for the late '70s, I think. And
absolutely.
there's a number of albums. I think Minute by Minute is probably the best one of the batch, but there's other ones like Living on a Fault Line and One Step Closer. That's a pretty cool tune
I
also.
love that song.
I do too. Yeah. Or what's that one? Bum, bum, da-da, bum, ba-da-da.
That's
That
what we were just talking
was
about.
what we were talking about. Okay. Da-da-da-da. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Depending on you, and
Or isn't the Little Darling I Love You, Little Darling I Need You? I'm trying to remember what album that's on. That's a good one too. Yeah, that Best of Doobies Part 2 is all about Michael McDonald's era, by the way. So if y'all wanted to just kind of nab one record, that would be the one to start with, I think. And then he did his first solo album. And a lot of the guys that played on the Steely Dan stuff are on this. Larry Carlton and guys of that caliber. And, this is just, I keep forgetting is probably the biggie. But, the title track is great. I Gotta Try. Is that what it's called, I think?
yeah, that's a Kenny Loggins co-write. I think I keep forgetting he wrote with one of the guys in Sanford and Townsend,
Okay.
"Smoke from a Distant Fire," which is yachty as AF, as they say.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a really great one. If you love doobies with Michael and Steely Dan, this is kind of where it all merges.
Yeah, if you want to compare versions of songs of the Titans, "I Gotta Try" is a song that appears on a later Loggins record on High Adventure, I think, and that's a very good to AB, that one in the Michael McDonald's version.
Kenny does some interesting versions. Like, have you ever heard Kenny Loggins' "What a Fool Believes"?
Yes, I have heard his version, and I think Michael obviously wins.
Yeah, but damn, that's a pretty cool one. Kenny had a killer band, around that time, late '70s. There's an album called Kenny Loggins Alive that is just one of the best live records from
It's
anybody.
so sick.
Yeah, it really
It's
is.
so sick. I got to see him with that original bass player in Hawaii. We opened up for them
Oh, he
once.
is so great. There's this tune on there called Junkaroo Holiday where he does
That's
this
on
killer.
"Keep the Fire." Is that a live version
Oh, you're
of
right.
"Drunken
Yeah,
Holiday"?
it's on the album. Yeah, where he does that big bass break with big slappy. I'm pretty sure he played a Yamaha back then.
He did. He played one of the Yamaha neck through broad basses, and I have to say, I thought about this earlier today. In this context, is that slap break in the middle of that song is the first slap break that I ever learned by ear as a player back when in like probably 1984.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
85.
what was that guy's name? Do you remember?
George something. I can't even remember. It's amazing. His playing was. I remember Tristan Bowden and Vince Denham on saxophone and all these other legendary guys that were in the band, but I can't remember George's last name at the moment.
Yeah, Tris went on to play with Chicago from Chicago 20 on up to about 4 years ago. So yeah.
Yeah, that's what Bill Champlin said. He had gotten him that gig.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, he's great drummer. Great drummer. I think he went back to playing with Kenny after he left Chicago. Now they have Walfredo Reyes Jr., who is the percussionist. They just kind of moved him over to the drum seat and called his brother to play percussion, and that's what they've been doing in Chicago ever since then. Well,
Oh, right.
yeah.
That's right. Daniel De Los Reyes, who plays with Zach Brown, is his brother.
Oh wow. Well, yeah. What a talented family.
Right?
Wow. Yeah. All right, here we go.
It is.
Oh man, this is a biggie. This is almost like if you wanted to just hand somebody a one record that sums up yacht rock, this might be a good one to start with.
It
Not that
pretty much is there.
not every tune on it is yachty, mind you, but this is it. I mean, come on, that's like top 5 yacht rock tune as far as I'm concerned.
I think one of the main things about yacht rock is it is a very all in genre in that you can fuse everything you want in the name of pop music. And this album is a fantastic example of what doing that with a master like Tom Dowd at the
Oh
helm
yeah.
can get
Gee,
you.
what a great sounding record. And of course I'm All Right, the big hit from Caddyshack was the one
Sure.
where, where it's like, in the Yacht Rock series, everybody's supposed to stay smooth, but Kenny gets bored with that and decides to go rock
I
and
will say there's a couple of proggy ass moments on Keep the Fire.
oh yeah.
In the intro of Love's Come of Age
Oh,
and
you're right, man. That's a great tune.
where there's some odd time shit that you would take a second to transcribe.
Yeah, that's great tune. Great stuff. And I think pretty much any of his albums along this time period are going to scratch the yacht itch. But this one,
Oh,
yeah, man.
yeah.
I
Both
go,
those albums, this one and Keep the Fire, I've listened to at least 500 times a
yeah,
piece.
man. I don't know. When I see that cover art, what does it make you think of? Like,
Indiana Jones, that's what was
yeah,
happening.
yeah, duh. I want to say Jumanji, but yeah, totally.
It's
Indiana
Indiana
Jones.
Jones and Temple of Doom and Last Crusade. But I think the first Indiana Jones movie was just banging in 1981, and he was like, "Cool, this is like high adventure. Why don't we go Indiana Jones? Just like get a fan and a leather strap and a
Yeah,
coat."
he looks like he's ready to go excavate a cave or something.
Right.
And and a Heart to Heart, man. That's
Oh,
I guess we should mention David Foster before we go any further because he was a big
essential.
player. Had such a big hand in a number of yachty tunes. But and Heart to Heart, that's one of his greatest ones. I have mixed feelings about David Foster. Sometimes I like what he does, and sometimes I don't. It kind of depends.
He kind
Um,
of wins. He's got more in the wins column, I have to say.
oh, I would say
I,
so
I
too.
feel the same way. He, when the Yacht Rock Forever guys will talk a lot about certain players and how to follow their careers along the trajectory of Yacht Rock, and they'll mention guys like Jay Graydon and Larry Carlton and stuff. And I say, phooey to all of that. The people you want to follow are people like David Foster and Steve Lukather and Jeff Porcaro because they're thread through just the culture of our times right there. I mean, like they're fucking seriously influential human beings if you look at those three guys' pedigrees from 1976 to 1986, they played on like half the hits you love and wrote them and the tubes and everything. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, they touched on a lot of different stuff. And the results were different with each one of them. I
Yeah,
mean, the tubes, I think, David whipped them into shape and made one of the best records of their career. Because
absolutely.
the
Gave him a
tube,
new career, like you said.
yeah,
Gave him another
the
laugh.
tubes were always kind of an eclectic group with some really kind of uneven albums that were kind of some prog rock and some kind of campy rock and he kind of reined that all in and made a really focused album with the completion backwards principle, which has Talk to You Later on it, which of course is Steve Lukather on guitar.
And writing,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well as writing She's a Beauty.
yeah. That was on the follow up, which I forget the name of, but it's the best song on that record by a landslide. Whereas the previous record, "We Talk to You Later," I think is solid from beginning to end. There's so many
Yeah,
great songs.
absolutely.
Yeah, Sushi Girl, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, Mr. Hate. I mean, there's some great stuff on that record.
And
Actually, the last concert I went to was at seeing the Tubes at the Ryman back in February.
oh, really? This past year?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Some friends were driving up, and it's like, screw it. It's just 4 hours. I've never been to the Ryman. I've driven by it. I've never been in there. So that alone was kind of an interesting thing, just to kind of go to the birthplace of country music in a way. If you don't count the Appalachians, but it just
Well, yeah.
yeah, and yeah, the Tubes were great, and then they were actually opening for Loverboy, but it was a long drive back, so we didn't stick around too long.
Oh no, you walked out of Loverboy?
I saw about a half an hour of it. Yeah, but
Is it still the same dudes? I fucking love Loverboy. Come on.
they were good. They were good, but I still walked in the door at 5 a.m. I was beat. I was like,
Oh yeah, of course you're driving back from Nashville.
yeah, it's like I don't care if the Coast of Jimi Hendrix is playing next. We're out of here.
We gotta go.
So anyhow, I don't know if this is
Okay.
still considered yacht or not. What do you think?
Well, we specifically peeled off this type of music and canned it into a term that we call Reagan rock.
Okay.
And it's very, it's members only. It's you're pegging your pants legs, you're wearing really, really white shoes. You know, there's a lot of hair gel and maybe a feathery kind of like dangly earring, and it's fantastic. And Yachty, no,
Yeah.
but we play it a lot because we try to keep a lot of high energy material in the show.
Sure. Well, this harkens back to my favorite scene in the Yacht Rock series where they've got Kenny's leg chained to the frame of a bed and he's like, cut foot loose. That was that.
Oh, I'm gonna get back at you guys.
Yeah, that's great. And this totally reminds me of high school. I don't know, I'm 53, so this was like the year before I graduated. So couldn't escape this one. It was everywhere. And something I discovered many years later is Nathan East plays the bass line on this.
No shit, he is the shit.
Oh my God. Well, you know what he said is
That's why it's so good.
well, Kenny said basically Kenny wrote it a year prior, so they used it to warm up every show on the tour, and Nathan just kept making it fancier, just kind of out of boredom, So when they
By the
finally,
time we got to the studio, it was just all bass solo.
oh man,
It's so good.
and it's not mixed super high, so it's almost like you're gonna have to stop and really kind of listen. But it's like, boy, there's a lot of stuff going on with this
When
thing.
I sat down and learned that bass line and brought it to the rehearsal room, they were like, "Really? That's all in there?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's kind of all in there." And there's what you call in Nashville they call it a tic tac line, but it's basically an octave of the bass is being ghosted by the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they did it after because it's absolutely perfect and it's different every single chorus. It's always each instance of the chorus is a completely different line that's as equally as busy and tons of 16th notes and like what's happening here. And so Mark Donnells and I had to like pick one and go with it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was really amazed when we did that. I think we did that for the Loggins versus McDonald jam, and it was like, wow, I never realized there was so much going on in this song.
There is
great.
a lot going on in that. There's between that bass and the little ghosty guitar that goes on with it. It's just insane. There's a lot of motion that is just right there in those two parts, the drums and the bass.
Yeah, really great stuff. All right, moving on here. I think this is kind of when Kenny kind of hit the roof when it came to popularity and such. Later he'd go to the Danger Zone and all that, but
Oh,
yeah,
Danger
that
Zone.
was a biggie.
But I mean, what a run for him, right? Come
Oh
on.
man, I mean, come on.
He was like, we'll get back to Kenny because Kenny was just gearing up and like he might take a couple months off while he was writing and recording Top Gun and Over the Top and all the different crazy time defining songs that he made in 1978, 79, and 80. And
But he kept going. I'm trying to remember that theme to Caddyshack #2 that he wrote. You remember that?
I do remember.
Don't throw it all away. Sooner or later, you gotta love somebody. Don't care how
I
much.
just remember I was fascinated by the moving lights in the video.
Nobody's fool. That's what it's called.
The gobos that would do the in the video. I was like, whoa! I've never seen lights move.
So So another one that pops up in the Yacht Rock series a lot is Toto.
Oh sure.
Yeah, and again Steve Lukather and Jeff Porcaro and his brother.
Page.
And
David Page. David Page has so much to do with our musical culture we're talking about right now too. We have to say his name out loud.
Yeah, just some amazing layering that he does, like that solo on Rosanna. It's like a feast of keyboard sounds kind of overlapping.
That's some Steve Porcaro goodness. Oh my God, he's so good.
It's great. And I can imagine playing that live. You better have all your sounds together to pull that multi-layered stuff off.
If you think about the keyboard solo symphony in Lido, which is also Steve Porcaro, Jeff on drums and stuff, like they're getting ready to to come and do this like the next week in the
Yeah,
studio.
yeah,
Toto.
they had it that down. Yeah, definitely. And then the follow up here, this one's kind of proggy actually in some spots.
It very much is.
Kind of borderline prog. 99, that's a great tune that Lukather sang. It's like, not only was it great.
Caliber he's got right there.
Yeah. And Georgie Porgy, you guys do that one, don't you?
We do Georgie Porgy, and it's not a song that makes sense on paper, but man, it's fun as hell to play. And we have our live show has had for the last couple of years as members of the band Keisha and Courtney Jackson. Keisha is the daughter of R&B legend Millie Jackson, and Keisha's been on tour for many years with Big Boy and Erykah Badu and Outkast, and she's been part of our band. And her daughter Courtney, who sings like a bird as well, and they take that ending of Georgie Porgy, and like whoa.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can't do that.
Sassy.
They can do that. I can't do that.
Yeah, but that's a great live number, definitely.
Oh, it's fun.
And then they had another album that was kind of and then they got to the fourth one, which was a mother lode.
As they say, the money.
Yeah, the embarrassment of riches, just with Rosanna and Africa alone. I featured this on my page. So I feature a different record every day to talk about a few weeks ago, and I'm like, I bet none of you can name another song on this, and I was wrong. A lot of people.
We're in love again.
Yeah, man. So great.
That's the one I know.
Impeccably recorded, of course.
Yeah.
Although it took them a couple records. This first one sounds a little lo-fi considering the studios they were hanging around in every day doing their jobs. I think the production got a little better on this one and was even better on this.
Have you read Steve Lukather's book?
I haven't, but I really want to, and I'd love to have him on the show, but
Gospel according to Luke.
Aim high, we'll see how it goes.
He seems like a nice fella. He has expressed an interest to maybe sit with us once in a while, or he said, but I'd much rather just sit in the crowd and watch you guys do your thing. And I thought, wow, that's a really nice thing to say.
Heck yeah, it is. He wouldn't stick around if it wasn't awesome, so. All right. And then moving on.
There you go.
Now, She's Gone. That might be one of the first yacht rock tunes. You think? 1970.
I would have to agree. It doesn't get much yachtier in all aspects than She's Gone, other than thematically. It doesn't feel very nautical. It doesn't have a California feel, but it's starting to get there. It's like Philly soul is like
it's those slash chords,
somehow. Yeah, there's the what is it? I guess it's like A over B.
I would say so, yeah, or A flat over B flat. Something like that.
It's A over B. We do it all the time.
Okay.
Oh, it's so, and come on, slash chords, and
I would. Well, it's funny. For a friend's church function, I learned a bunch of yacht rock for a gig that we did last month, and we learned "Baby Come Back," and we learned how long from Ace, and they all start with that same progression.
I call it the 4/5 chord, where it's the long and winding road chord, where they play the 4 with a 5 in the bass, and with it's. Here's an interesting tidbit that you'll like, having mentioned those two songs in a row. When we play with Peter Beckett of Player, and he wants to do a second song, it's usually How Long by Ace.
Okay, very cool. Originally sung by Paul Carrick.
Yeah, and we usually do it. We usually do it in A flat with a B flat on the bass.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
And he sings Peter Beckett sings the shit out of that A song.
Oh, I bet that's awesome. Yeah.
He is still a fantastic singer and guitarist and has become a friend and one of the guys we sit in more often than anyone with, and he's what a cool dude, man. Played in Little River Band for 8 or 10 years.
Oh wow. Well, they're coming up before we're done here, definitely.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, we can't.
Yeah, got to have them. So anyway, I just wanted to point out that Hall & Oates had a really cool string of albums all through the 70s. I don't have them all here, but Abandoned Luncheonette's one of the biggies. They have the silver album where they got all the makeup on. They're looking kind of glammy.
Oh yeah.
That's in one of the Yacht Rock episodes. Remember where they show up with all that and
Yeah.
it's like, come back without the makeup and some better songs or something to that effect.
Which expresses the personal opinions of the writers of that skit.
Yeah, no doubt. And this one kind of falls between the cracks, but I just love it because I'm a huge Todd Rundgren junkie, and Todd produced this one. They all dropped a bunch of acid and wrote these songs together.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
There you go. And no big hits, but I'm really fond of that tune, Beanie G and the Rose Tattoo.
Oh yeah.
That's such a bitchin' dun dun. Just there's a great riff on that. Just sometimes one note can be a great riff if you place it right.
Agree.
So yeah, this is a one that gets overlooked a lot, but it's great from beginning to end. Great blue-eyed soul that they did so well. And then moving on, this was another one a few years later. I just love the picture with the 70s looking TV on the counter there and
the Ritz crackers in the fucking like Cabernet.
Yeah, it's so 70s. And of course this had Rich Girl, which was a biggie for them. And then they hooked up with a producer named Neil Kernan, who has worked with a lot of different people, but I think his biggest work and greatest was with Hall & Oates. He went on to work with a lot of thrash metal bands later, of all things. He did, and metal bands in general. Neil did Turn Up the Radio from Autograph, and he did Rage for Order from Queensryche, and
both great sounding albums.
Most of the Dokken albums, if you're into Dokken,
fantastic sounding albums.
Rhymes with Rockin', yeah, they're all tied to this. And Private Eyes and HTO. Those are the 3 albums that he did with them. And that was really kind of their biggest string of hits, I think.
Sounds extraordinaire.
Yeah, came off of those 3 records. So yeah, this is kind of Hall & Oates retooled for the 80s, turned into a hit machine. And pretty much everything that followed after that was great too. So
then they, after Voices, they got Mickey Curry in the band, and that guy is insane. You want to follow one of the names of Yacht Rock session musicians, follow the drummer Mickey Curry and see what he played on. That'll blow your mind.
Excellent. All right. And of course, Boz, we were talking about
Come on.
Yeah.
With all the Picaros and the Lukather and
this is about as yacht as it gets.
This is right there in the middle of the genre.
Now, I should point out that Boz had a career long before the yacht. In late 60s, he was playing in Muscle Shoals with Duane Allman, doing straight up kind of soul and blues, so
because he's got the voice for it. We saw that. Did you see the Dukes of September tour?
I didn't see it, but I had the DVD, and I just thought this is the perfect pairing. Like I said, if you can't get Steely, Boz and Michael McDonald are as close as you're going to get. So to put them all on the same bill was very inspired.
I would have thought Michael McDonald would like clean up the stage vocally against those 2 guys. And to me, watching the show, I was like, holy shit, Boz Scaggs' voice is gold.
Oh yeah.
Absolute gold. Still, like the money still sounds fantastic.
Yeah, and whoever the drummer was for that tour was fantastic, man. His attention to detail was better than Keith Carlock's when you go to see Steely Dan now. Which is saying something, because Keith is friggin' amazing and has gotten consistently better with every year that's passed, I think. But, it's a long line of amazing drummers he's following for sure. Here's a cool follow-up that I kind of like a lot too. I think it's a good companion to Silk Degrees. And there's actually another one that I will point out that I didn't put on the thing, but I picked this up the other day. This is the one that came out right before Silk Degrees. It's called Down To and Then Left, and it has Picaro and the usual characters on it. So
doesn't that have Love, Look What You've Done to Me on it?
Love, look what you've done to me.
That's from Urban Cowboy, but it was on one of Boz's records too, right?
Oh, easily.
That's yachty as hell. That's the countryside of the yacht right there.
Yeah.
Only because it was in that movie, not because it sounds country at all.
Yeah.
But it was in that movie.
Oh, I totally remember. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I am 50.
Well, I am 50. So yeah, okay. I was
You
a
fell in
second.
love with Deborah Winger in that movie, just like I did.
Yeah, you know it, and
Come on.
it was a great time to be. It was a great time to have Cinemax.
That's right.
That's right. Now I got to pick out Ambrosia. I was talking with Burley last week, their drummer, and
What a great guy.
yeah, and and I wondered, how felt folks felt about the whole yacht rock tag being thrown on their band decades after the fact. And he's like, I love it. We've gained a couple new generations of fans that know every word to our songs. So how are you going to dislike that? That's great. And
It's great. We've been on
and
tour with him a few times, and I've even gotten to sit in on a short gig because Joe had something else to do and played bass on the four Yachty Ambrosia songs, and they gave me a fifth one to learn, which was like Life in LA or something. And I was like,
oh,
hey
oh,
guys, I immediately started working on it, and I was like, hey guys, the fifth one's gonna take as long as the other four combined.
that was a proggy one. That was kind of their
There's a lot
album.
of notes in that one. I was like, can we just do the four? And they're like, yeah, that's just the four is fine. You don't need to learn Life in LA. I was like, thank God.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was kind of the first couple albums were pretty much straight up prog. This one,
They're
and,
so proggy. They're
and
so good. Watching Joe play all that stuff is just mind blowing.
yeah, I mean, I picked this up in like a dollar bin about 10 years ago, and I was just took it home and I was like, holy shit, this album is amazing. And it was engineered by Alan Parsons, so it sounds frigging awesome too. And
Phenomenal.
just really ambitious arranging and stuff. They were an R&B band before all this happened. So their turn to yacht was not really that unusual. They were just kind of in a way getting back to some things that they had done before they got proggy. And then they kind of transition. I'd say this album was kind of the prog meets yacht album.
Yeah.
And I think this one has How Much I Feel on it. I can't quite remember which album has which versus this one, which I think had You're the Only Woman and You're the Biggest Part of Me. So yeah,
Yeah.
those are some biggies. So yeah, I just wanted to all right. So now we're going to
Oh,
get
the
into
blues
this.
image.
Yeah,
Come on.
now we're going to go back and kind of dig our way through some different albums by different people that maybe didn't have a whole string of yacht rock records, but had at least one or two songs that were kind of defined the genre and kind of went from there. So yeah, what can you tell me about Blues Image? Now let me ask you this, Greg. It seems to me that yacht rock is usually about a certain kind of way of putting the song together harmonically, engineering wise. But sometimes just writing a song about a boat will get you in the club, or wearing a captain's hat while you play a moog with your wife will get you in the club. What do you
I,
say?
I want to say that this song's, it really is the song because we're not talking about Blues Image, the band. We're talking about the Ride Captain Ride version that they did, which is their song. And I think that there's two reasons it's yachty. And one is that it's nautical in theme, and two is that it was used in the Anchorman soundtrack.
Okay.
There has been no like face of yacht rock that seems to come from outside the thing that's stronger than Ron Burgundy. It
Right.
seems like he's very scotchy scotch yada yacht. He knows what's up, and for whatever reason, when we started playing this song live, it was like this makes fucking sense, and everyone says this is a yachty song, and so it's kind of retroactively the earliest yacht song. Interestingly enough, I grew up listening to the Blood, Sweat, and Tears version of this song, which you've never heard, is a true tour de force because they made everything more complicated than it needed to be. And this song is certainly a perfect shining example of how they could do that and just kind of blow your mind in the first place. And it's on their album New City and the Blood, Sweat, and Tears version of this. So when I sing this song, because Nick was like, I don't know what the fuck to do with this. I've never heard this song before. He's probably 10 years younger than me. And he's like, do you want to sing this? And I was like, I'll sing Ride Captain Ride. But I ended up adding a lot of the vocal licks from David Clayton Thomas, which is kind of like a cartoon character singer.
Oh well, yeah. Well, he's great. It's funny, but I tell this story occasionally on the show. But my older brother's 15 years older than me, and when he moved out at 18 and I was 3, he left behind all the records he didn't want to take to college with him. And my favorite record in it was Tommy from the Who, which is
Of course it is.
yeah, I just absolutely, the minute I put that record on, there was just something about that music that totally clicked. And I didn't know what it was about. I actually had a book by Dr. Seuss called Horton Hears a Who. So I just assumed that it was about a Who named Tommy. I didn't know. And it's just as well because it's not really a kid friendly story anyway.
It's not.
So it's just as well I didn't really know what it was about, but just musically, it really clicked with me. But the other record in that, well, there's a few other records in that pile, but that second Blood, Sweat, and Tears album, the one with the kind of burgundy fade on the front of it,
Yeah.
with Spinning Wheel and God Bless the Child and all that, I just love that. I'm a big sucker for horn sections and
They did it like nobody else.
love them. But I digress here. All right, so what do you think's next? Maybe Brandy?
Hell yes.
You know it. Now, what
Yeah,
makes
to the extreme.
what makes this yachty to you? Just the Lonesome Sailors and all that kind of lyrical content?
Well, it is a nautical song,
Yes.
and so it kind of wins. It's got a certain amount of getting its toe in the door by being a nautical lyric to begin with, but it is carefree. It has a very free sound to it, and it's a bunch of New York dudes that went to LA with a record deal and got polished by Arif Murdan, which is insane. Like when you think about it, like you're like, what the fuck? I was like, holy shit, these horns are great. Who arranged this? I was like, oh my god, wait a minute.
Like,
And
okay.
when you listen to the other songs from this record, Jimmy Loves Marianne and stuff, like the horn arrangements and the band arrangements and the recordings and stuff are as like the standard of quality from 1972. Absolutely bad to the bone, collegiate as hell, like completely grown up chords and, and arrangements.
It kind of points to the future. Like, this is where the 70s are headed, folks.
Absolutely, and there's
From us.
hints of Bacharach in the Arif Murdan arrangements for the horns and stuff, but it in such a good way. You're just like, man, this is a perfect song. Brandy is an absolutely perfectly crafted pop recording on every level, and I remember talking to Elliot Lurie, the singer. He was at a show with us on the during the year that it was added to the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, man, you've had a big year. And he was like, I got to tell you, they sent me like an advanced copy and they said the songs in the movie and we're like, yeah, whatever. And they showed us the scene where he like recites the lyrics and it's like the major part of the fucking plot. And he was like, I had no idea. He's like, it's incredible. Like, he's like, I'm having a year. I was like, yeah.
Down.
Yeah.
I'd say everything that was on that soundtrack just kind of got a new lease on life. Mr. Blue Sky from ELO and all those other ones.
It's true. And it felt like at the time, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, that the culture really was ringing with all these beautiful songs and filmmakers, Joss Whedon and J.J. Abrams really loved to use them. It's great. It all seems like, oh, great timing, guys.
There we go.
That's a lot of hair in that picture, by the way.
No doubt, man. No doubt. All righty. So next up, got to include this. Again, the soft rock is kind of the father of yacht rock, I think. Yeah. What do you think?
I have to say that I would agree. Summer Breeze and Diamond Girl and it's just such incredible highbrow musical jams. And his brother, of course, was Dan Seals from England Dan and John Forcoli.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they're going to come up here in a minute.
And so these guys were really into it, but I feel like that their harmony was a little like, what would the Everly Brothers do in Yacht Rock?
Okay. Yeah.
These two guys could really, really sing together. And if you dig for the live footage where there's an actual like live vocal feed, there's no shitty footage of Seals and Crofts, those guys could really play and sing.
Oh yeah, beautiful stuff, definitely.
Inspiring.
Yeah, we mentioned Bread before. I'd say that this is one of the earlier.
I've been enamored of Guitar Man lately.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Jam. And Baby I'ma Want You is right there too. There's a whole side of yacht rock that I would say I would agree if you asked me, is this yacht rock? But we're not really able to include it in our shows because it's so sleepy.
Oh
It's
yeah,
it's like a guaranteed like pee break.
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, definitely. And I would include if
every Bread song. It falls in that category.
Yeah. Guitar Band's like their most rowdy tune.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the version Cake did of that?
No, Cake did a version of Guitar Man.
Yeah, it's on one of their albums from about 10 years ago, and it's
Guitar Man sounds like a Travis song to me. Like if you ever heard the band Travis?
I'm not familiar.
Oh, you might like them. They're from I believe they're from the UK. They're fantastic.
I've heard of Travis Picking, but that's a different thing.
Check out the band Travis. Yeah, they've got fantastic songs.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. So I noticed you include a song from this album in your set list, and at first I thought, well, Jackson Browne, is he really yacht rock? Tell me what you think.
I think if there was ever a human poster child for the state of California, it's Jackson Browne.
Fair enough.
And if you read anything about his life, about what he experienced as a kid diving into that scene, living on Mulholland Drive, or living in a house with a swimming pool, and writing near Don Henley and J.D. Souther and Glenn Fry, but being somehow a little bit ahead of those guys in terms of like, I've been around, everybody knows me, I'm the good-looking kid that lives at that house and stuff, and then just like putting the best LA band together and taking them out on the road. Lee Sklar and Russ Kunkel and Danny Korchmar. I mean, come on. Yeah. Those guys define the sound of a lot of the other songs that we've been talking about. And certainly I feel like that Jackson Browne's songwriting itself feels like California to me. Just in the same way that there's the Eagles feel like California. Sure. There's something about that feels like Mulholland Drive, like square in the center of the target.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Very cool. All right. Now, speaking of beaches.
Oh, God.
Now,
great song.
Like some folks are like, I don't know about the Beach Boys being yacht rock. And it's like, well, they kind of predate it, but in a way they kind of set the stage in some ways as well. Don't you think?
They put the California vibe into music. They made the mystique something that you could write about and catch in a song with, Surfing Safari and the songs where they were like, I'm not capturing a time or a moment or a person or a heartbreak. I'm capturing the feel of getting up and waking up and living in this town and doing these things all the time feels like something to me. And the Beach Boys captured it again and again. You just cannot write them out of the picture. At 73, you're like, the Beach Boys, they're done. No! Sail on Sailor's fucking back to the bone!
That's one of their best ones, and this is kind of post Brian Wilson losing his marbles and laying around in bed snorting coke for the next 5 years.
And still they come up with this.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, I think those later albums like this and Sunflower and some of those other ones are really worth investigating on their own merits. But yeah,
they were so good at what they did. You have to just kind of check out because they'll surprise you. There's cuts on all these later Beach Boys albums.
Oh yeah. I mean, everything up through Pet Sounds, of course, everybody's loved and heard 1,000 times. But these later ones, I think, kind of get lost in the shuffle sometimes. But they shouldn't, because there's, there were great songwriters in that band all the way around. It wasn't just Brian Wilson's baby. Although it kind of was originally.
Kind of was, but
but nothing lasts forever. Alrighty, now how about this one?
Oh God!
This
is where they figured out a way to to marry the Junkanoo thing into like they're like, whoa, there's a way we can play acoustic island music that's kind of up tempo and poppy and stuff. And they were like exploring that in such a great way. There's so many cool upbeat songs that are just like, whoa, I don't think of anything but Florida when I
Sure, you know, it's like Kenny was yacht before yacht in a way.
He didn't even know what he was doing.
Right.
And people are like, look what you were doing all this time. And he's like, oh shit, this is me? I guess I did it.
Yeah, you know. So yeah, it definitely goes back that far, back when he was working with Jim Messina. And you know, Jim Messina features in the series quite a bit as well, as kind of slightly disgruntled because Kenny had split and gone on his own.
But then he broke into Poco, which was absolutely yachty as fucking hell.
Oh, yeah.
There's no counting those guys out. They were both so talented. That's why it's easy to go look at Loggins and Messina and say Kenny Loggins is the guy, but don't count Jim Messina out. There's a lot.
Good point. And you know, Poco and the Eagles, you know, there's a lot of overlap there as well.
A lot of overlap in that
bass players back and forth and such. You know, Randy Meisner was there, and then B. Schmidt. Then it's like they kept hip hop, or you know, kind of leapfrogging. You know, so very cool. And of course, we talked about this one before. I just had to include this because I think that's a really cool looking lamp.
Great. What a brilliant track too.
Oh yeah, wonderful stuff. And then we were talking about this before with How Long. Bass, you know, I think most people know Paul Carrick from, you know, his work in the 80s with Mike Rutherford of Genesis on the Mike and Mechanics album.
Also in Squeeze.
And Squeeze. The thing is, people don't realize that he was only on one Squeeze record, and then he was out of there, you know. And he came back about 10 years later for maybe one more that didn't really matter. But, you know, the real singer for Squeeze is Glenn Tilbrook, you know, the guitar player. He's
different in Tilbrook, but still.
I'm on a Squeeze kick right now, and I just think that they you know, for the same reason I love bands like XTC. They just, it's almost like that Lennon McCartney thing for the 80s. And you look at the way these songs are put together and the chord progressions, and you just go, wow, this is genius. And then the guitar playing on Squeeze records, that's all Glenn. He's a friggin' brilliant lead guitarist. You ever listen to that solo on something like Another Nail for My Heart?
Oh, yeah.
And it's fucking perfect. You know, it's just like, yeah. So anyway, so Paul was on, you know, Tempted. He sings a couple verses on that. So that's probably the song that everybody knows Paul Carrick from the most.
It's why people think he's in Squeeze.
Right, I know. And then when you kind of dig into their history, it's like, oh, he was more of a footnote than a major player. But you know, their keyboard player for many years was Jules Holland, who went on to have on TV shows. He was the original Squeeze keyboard player. So, but anyway, yeah, they made a great album with Paul, and Paul's soulful voice is just wonderful. You know, great stuff. And then Orleans, what do you think? Yachty?
I was blown away once I read an article where Elliot Easton from the Cars was naming his guitar player influences, and the first name that came out of his mouth was John Hall from Orleans. Oh, wow. And I was like, holy fucking shit, are you kidding me? And then I started kind of digging in a little bit, and our good buddy Robbie Dupree was really close with Larry Hoppin before he passed, and all these guys, and they're just such consummate songwriters and exceptional musicians. It is every bit of the yacht, even though it's not as California as some of it. It's Dance With Me in particular.
Yeah.
It's a fucking crushing yacht rock track.
Yeah, for every yacht playlist, it's a must.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How about this one? Ooh, Jackie.
I think that this song, the band maybe not, but the song itself is absolutely yachty, and people ask for it all the time. We learned it and played it at several shows, and it doesn't connect with people as much as we thought it might. It's a little, it's some songs are just easier to listen to recorded than you're standing there in a room with sweaty bodies.
Yeah. Well, this one is kind of a surprise because just, with the name of the band alone, you would never expect something yachty.
Yeah,
You expect
something
something
yachty for me.
swampy. So yeah,
Yeah.
interesting one there. How about this one? Come on, this is
Yeah, and this belies the guys in the Beyond Yacht Rock series, the JD Reisner and those guys, seem to have a aversion to the inclusion of acoustic guitar in yacht rock songs.
that's a good
But I
point.
think that America breaks down all those barriers with Ventura Highway and Sister Golden Hair and uh, Horse with No Name
Sure. And they're
You
big '80s.
Magic.
You could
And I
do
mean, there's
that.
so many great America songs.
Yeah, man. I just wonderful stuff. Very
Now,
underrated.
when people talk about the term corporate rock, whereas a record company creates a band that sounds like another band for the purpose of just selling records, America might be one of the earliest, best examples of that,
Wow.
of the creation of. I mean, of course, there are three guys who worked together and created songs together, but when people realized that these guys kind of could take the Crosby, Stills, and Nash idiom to another poppier level that Crosby, Stills, and Nash was not willing to go to,
Sure.
you
Good way
know,
of
they're
putting it.
cool. Why not? And of course, to great success because they crushed it.
Yeah, and just wonderful vocal blend and really great guitar playing. It's
Really
just
good songs. I really
oh
like the
yeah,
songs.
very wonderful. Now, how about this?
Oh, these guys.
Well, he's got a captain's hat, so he's in the club for that alone, right?
What a brilliant musician.
You
Jesus
know,
Christ.
yeah,
Both
really
those
he
guys
is.
can play the shit out of the keyboards.
He did. He played with the Beach Boys briefly, and that was kind of his claim to fame for a lot of people, although it was not like the major lineup that everybody knows.
But she can play too.
Yeah, and she's just a fucking great singer, man.
Jesus.
What a voice. She was just amazing. And a lot of the Wrecking Crew played on these records.
Yeah.
Hal Blaine's the drummer, so it's
Carol Kane on bass. It's just
it,
and just a lesson in how to do it right.
yeah, really. This takes me back. In grade school, 2 days a week we had music class, Tuesday and Thursday, and our teacher would bring in records that she loved, and this was one of the ones she played us, and I just fell in love with it, along with stuff from the Carpenters and all that kind of stuff from the time period. Great stuff. Gets kind of overlooked. These guys even had a TV show back in the '70s.
Yeah, I watched it all the time.
Yeah, that and
It's
the
a
Osmonds.
wonderful example of how they write that bass line from the first note of the song all the way to the end. It's written and played by several instruments,
Yeah,
and
doubled up
it's
the
fucking
clavinet.
money.
Oh
Just so,
yeah, that's just friggin' great. Yeah, really good stuff. You remember the Adventures of the Bionic Watermelon?
oh
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right, man. Never forget. Never forget. Okay. Now these guys,
There you go.
British, but somehow they fit into this.
Wow, Yachty. It's
Yeah.
Yachty.
This is the one where they took every channel on the mixing desk and did a different vocal note. At the beginning,
Yeah,
you hear that they're
it's
basically
chromatic
playing.
scale.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
playing the faders like an instrument, basically. Pretty brilliant stuff, and that was definitely a vocal sound that rubbed off on a lot of people later in the '70s.
There are the song that we do by 10cc, which is it's more like the earlier Steely Dan that we talked about that's busier rhythmically is the things we do for love.
Oh, great! Yeah,
I
that's
think what a wonderful Yachty song, but yeah, like it's busy.
yeah,
It's not at all like I'm Not in Love, which is more about the long notes of those vocals and stuff.
yeah. And I think they kind of remind me of like a British Steely Dan.
Yeah,
You listen,
easily.
yeah,
Very good call.
from the production to the playing to the snotty lyrical angle,
Yeah.
it's all there. So yeah, if you like Steely and want something in that ballpark, if you haven't checked out 10cc, go there, because it's not all sweet songs like this. There's some really kind of kooky, kind of daffy stuff, like tunes like Rubber Bullets and Donna, and some of their earlier things are almost kind of silly, but yeah, an amazing standard these guys kind of set the bar at and kept going. All right, now here we go. This is
Oh, these guys, Atlanta people.
yeah. Now who's the guy that plays the marimba? I'm trying to remember his name.
Um,
Well,
Let
he's
me think of his name. Hold on.
I think he passed away recently.
He did pass away, and man, I'm ashamed that I can't
Yeah,
remember
I
his
can't
name.
either, but I
But
just got to give kudos to him because
I'm
that
gonna use the wiki
solo,
and figure it out real quick.
yeah, yeah. That
Um,
solo is just frigging awesome. You know, it really makes this song.
um, the the band itself is has been kind of involved in our history in that Jimmy, the bass player, was friends with our keyboard player Mark Benkuya, and and it led to them sitting in with us, and our we had our first street festival where all the members of Starbuck kind of reunited on stage kind of spontaneously. The singer had no contact with anyone, but heard that the band was playing without him at our show and showed up.
Oh wow.
Bruce Blackburn. Uh, I'm trying to get the wiki up on Starbuck the band because I think we need to say our marimba player's name out loud.
Absolutely.
Because he's the one who lived in California, and
Just have a marimba solo on something alone was unique.
but not only that, he's wearing like a jumpsuit. Um, Bo, it's Bo Wagner who
That's right.
played marimba and stuff. And I got to tell you, in the years leading up to his passing, he played with us several
I
times.
thought
And
so.
when we went to California, we played in Silver Lake at a club, and he came and sat in and played that marimba solo live. It's insane.
Yeah,
It's
yes,
insane.
just awesome. Just awesome. How about these guys?
Of course.
You tell
And
me.
and their one song that was Yachty, right?
Yeah.
They had several. They had well, they had a couple of other songs. They had "I Love You," right?
Oh, that's man, that's eighth
When
grade.
I was a
Yeah.
younger man, I hadn't a care. That's very Yachty, and
Oh,
couldn't
that
get it right is even more Yachty.
man, that guitar hook in that song just kills me, man. It takes me right back to the eighth grade dance. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so friggin' great. Yeah. Yeah, they're kind of like the Ozark Mountain Daredevils, one where it's kind of like, well, you're not really yachty, but a couple of your songs are.
they've got two good ones.
Yeah, yeah. And the rest I'm clueless about, but I'm sure they're all on gold plated. That's right. And these guys get the
These
vote.
guys.
They get the vote for the most boring album cover in the whole presentation. But that's okay because they make up for it with great songs.
We've played with John Forcoli several times, and he's a great guy, and they had such good songs. Nights Are Forever, and I Really Love to See You Tonight, and they seem to hit all the boxes.
Oh yeah,
Not necessarily a maritime theme, but
yeah.
not really needed.
It's soft enough to get in the ballpark, though. Definitely.
Yeah, they're gonna talk you into something.
Oh yeah. All right, I guess we got to throw a little Chicago in here. I have mixed feelings about them being yachty, but you know, this is the album. This is the song that sowed the seeds of discontent for their in a lot of ways, and Peter Cetera became kind of the front man force that would lead them into the '80s. Although I don't think he was doing the leading, I think Foster just pulled him aside when he got involved and said, "You are the voice for this." You know, him, David Foster, and Peter Cetera really became kind of a team, and kind of elbowed the rest
What
of the
I've
band
seen,
out
it
of the
seems
picture.
like he's like Peter's like, what happened to me? Who did this? Like he's a nice guy who's like, I went through this thing and we had some famous songs and look, oh my God, I'm a star.
Right? Yeah, and it all started with this before
Yeah.
Foster even came along. That this was a huge hit in '76, and you know,
What an incredible song.
it really is the 12-string solo on there, and yeah, you know, I mean, maybe it was different for them, but it was still great, and it gave them some more mileage that they really needed at that point in their career, I think. So yeah, I think it all worked out all right in the long run. But yeah, I'd say it's slightly yachty. It's in that ballpark. You know, he's
Very.
been in the series. You know, they're like give Peter Cetera a hard time in the Yacht Rock series. It just kind of like
They do, and it's weird. Like if you were laying on the yacht drinking your Chardonnay and having a shrimp or whatever, and this song came on, you wouldn't get up and be like, "Fuck,
no,
I hate that song."
this is
You'd be
perfect.
like, "Cool, I love this song," and you leave it on, and things would go on, and it would seamlessly fit into your yacht rock narrative.
Yeah, so I got to toss that one in there. Most Chicago, no, and I don't think this is one of their best albums, pound for pound. There's some pretty trite shit on here. They got a really catchy tune called You Get It Up." That's yeah, chock full of metaphor.
Oh
All
God,
right, now this is the only shirtless one we get in this whole presentation. But this was a typical kind of pose that a lot of bands did back in the 70s.
now interestingly enough, um, I think if you do a certain amount of internet sleuthing, you will find a photo of the Yacht Rock Revue with five of our heads superimposed over this picture
Okay.
that's been photoshopped into their picture. Like we literally did a photo shoot where like, take your shirt off. Okay, you're this guy. Turn your head a little more. Turn your head. Okay, cool. And so we created this picture actually exists somewhere on the internet. So I encourage you to look it up.
The guy on the left looks like a cross between Michael Anthony from Van Halen and the bass player from ELO, Kelly Crockett.
That ends up being Mark Benkuya and Mark Donnell for our band.
Okay, very cool. Alrighty, but yeah, Still the One. I mean, come on, that's just such a 70s.
Oh, good.
Oh,
We played Still the One as a straight up yacht rock song.
all very cool. Does it get a good response?
Absolutely. No one doesn't like that song.
Yeah,
There's
that's
not a single person that does not like Still the One.
yeah, it's just perfect. How about this one? Now these are guys
Oh,
almost your one hit wonder kind of thing, right?
it pretty much is. I mean, there's another Firefall song somewhere, but we don't play this one. I don't. I don't. I would say it's pretty. It's pretty yachty, but we haven't really stepped into this Firefall song
I
yet.
found it on some lists, but yeah, I'd say it's a little more obscure than most of the ones we're talking about
It's
here.
not too obscure. I just, for some reason, it just hasn't been touched. I think it might fall in the category of songs that people would go pee to.
Yeah, yeah, you don't want that. Okay. And you know, instrumental rock, you know, we
Come
don't
on.
think a whole lot about it, but man, if there's one instrumental tune that is
You
yacht,
want to walk on stage to something cool? This is the shit.
man, yeah. And George is just an amazing, amazing musician. I mean, he was a dyed in the wool jazz motherfucker long before he started doing this. This was almost kind of his sideline of work to get more, you know, records sold and stuff.
Ironically, it worked.
Yeah, and he had a few that came later that we'll talk about here in a minute that I think are equally catchy and yachty with vocals. But yeah, this dun but dun 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 dun.
To a certain extent, that live version of On Broadway is very yachty.
Oh yeah, love that, love that. So yeah, George definitely. And then Fleetwood Mac is another one where I don't really think of them as yachty per se, but for some reason this song came up on a lot of playlists.
They are very yachty in the sense that they dominated AM radio in 1977 and 1978. There's no getting around the the popularity and the California-ness of Rumors, and ironically, you picked the one song that we actually don't do.
Oh wow.
We
Okay.
we do several Fleetwood Mac songs from Rumors, and and we could do more, I think, and it would still be considered yachty in the thought that the crowd would really enjoy listening to us play it.
You know what I dig about this is that the verse is minor, and usually most of their stuff is really major and happy sounding, and it's got a little bit of a attitude, you know. And that clavinet lick, you know, it's pretty tasty stuff. And Christine McVie, just
Christine McVie.
man, I mean, everybody loves Stevie, but I was always more of a Christine guy.
She could take the building blocks of just a regular blues song, and just the way she presented it was a new pop version that created their sound.
Very much, yeah, definitely. And also during the Bob Welch era, which we'll touch upon here in a minute.
Oh yeah, here
Because
we go.
I love Bob Welch, man, and he's like the forgotten guy in Fleetwood Mac history, but he shouldn't be because they made 5 albums with him. What people don't realize is that Buckingham and Nicks didn't even show up until their 9th album.
Yeah, and Bob Welch didn't have a hit until after he left Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, big hit, yeah, right. And like Sentimental Lady was on their Bare Trees album, if I'm not mistaken, but it wasn't until he redid it on his solo album that it became
With a couple of them involved.
Right. Well, it's weird that people from the next lineup came and played on his record, because usually when there's a lineup change, they don't connect, But I think just because they're all in California, he was a California guy, and so were Buckingham, Nicks.
Very social, yeah.
Yeah, they all kind of knew each other anyway. So that was kind of interesting how that all overlaps there. How about this one here? Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Big
It's so good. We learned this was on the original 20 songs that we learned to play this show. And it doesn't excite live in if you make an accurate representation of the studio recording live, it doesn't excite live. It can fall into the bathroom category because of its cyclical nature. But what a great vocal, what a great sounding recording, what a great song. There's stuff that just it doesn't make sense to play live. It makes sense to sit around and listen to it.
Sure. And local guys, Doraville's finest.
Yeah, absolutely. And still up there with the standard of the best of the best.
Oh yeah, they really were something else. How about this?
This guy
cover, yeah. And look at those shoes.
A lot of genre busting, a lot of gender busting from Jay Ferguson.
Everything's busted when it comes to this.
Could any song be more yacht rocky? Like, he is absolutely, if yacht rock is a scale from 5 to 7 out of 10, he is like 7.1.
Yeah. Good. Did it.
Yeah, that's about as amped as we can get in yacht rock, but that you're right there at the top.
Yeah, man, great, man. That takes me way back. All right, we were talking about this one before. Godley and Cream split the fold right before this record, so they became basically a 2-piece with the guitar player and the bass player, Eric Stewart and Graham Gouldman. But that's okay. They were great. They almost had kind of a artsy kind of meets pop thing, where Godley and Cream were more into the more esoteric stuff, and these guys were into the more pop stuff. So this
album image is the image of the song. Like, it's the visual equivalent of The Things We Do for Love, like lots of beauty and complexity and scope and distance and weirdness.
It's great. And this was done by the team they called Hypnosis, which did Wish You Were Here and Dark Side of the Moon, and so many of those kind of surrealistic album covers from the 70s. And this is one of their best, unlike,
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, they did great work with certain bands and other ones not good. I don't know if you ever noticed, but Yes tried to rebrand themselves with this kind of stuff in the late 70s and did a couple albums, Going for the One and Tormato, with two of the shittiest Hypnosis covers around. But I can't blame them for not. I mean, one was so bad they threw a tomato at it, so. But I can't blame them for trying something different at that point. I'm sure the whole fantasy floating islands in the sky kind of looked a little dated by then. But yeah.
Maybe they've seen Avatar.
Well, after the fact, I'm sure Roger Dean was. Well, I know Roger Dean was calling his lawyer before the movie was even over. But I think in the end,
damn it!
I think they settled. But it's like, who are you kidding? James Cameron's like, I don't know. I might have smoked a joint and listened to one of their records back in the day, but I don't claim that this has anything to do with his art.
It's nothing doing, pal.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, let the lawyers sort that out later. How about these guys? You think this is
Absolutely.
I would say,
And I'm glad you brought it up because there's such a soul influence in yacht rock, and and the Commodores is the central point of the soul influence of yacht rock. Lionel Richie is the guy,
he really is, he's going to be,
and of course Michael Jackson, and but Lionel Richie, come on,
well, I don't know. Rock With You, I think could fit in
it's a
there.
little yachty. But Michael, but Commodores hit all the hallmarks of yacht rock over and over and over again in the years from Easy and
Hill.
Lady and Hello is even kind of a yacht rock song.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. We're talking about Bob,
Well, there you go.
his first solo album. You guys did a really cool cover of Sentimental Lady about last year, I think it was. You did a video.
Oh yeah, that's the Forever 78 guys.
What's that? Okay, yeah. That's right. Yeah, and I love the description of how they're talking about how he Bob Welch started looking like kind of your bespectacled industrial arts teacher, and then morphed into kind of a Marcel Marceau beret wearing kind of guy later in the 70s.
This album cover is insane. The joint with a roach clip and the chick licking his face and shit is like, I'm both turned on and horrified.
Yeah. He always kind of
like catching your parents having sex.
Yeah. There's a follow-up to this called Three Hearts that looks almost exactly the same. It's a different hot chick, but the same kind of square logo and everything.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so if anybody likes this, check that one out too. His solo albums were really very good.
He's really good.
Yeah, I gotta say, it was really good stuff. So check that out. So he had Ebony Eyes. That's not really. It's a little harder rock than some of the other things, but great tune. And here's another instrumental that we kind of got to stick on the list, I think. Along with Breezin'.
I would have to agree. You can't walk on to a better song than Feel So Good.
Yeah.
You can't really set up a good time better than playing this song.
And bitchin' guitar solo. I don't know who his guitar player was, but smoking stuff, fusion quality. Here's a great one. This spawned a couple biggies. Are both of these in your set list?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Steelers Wheel as well. But I think that the thing that's yachtiest about Jerry Rafferty is his voice.
Okay. Yeah.
He is just an absolutely undeniable powerhouse pop singer. Like you just like when he starts singing, you're like, "What? Oh, I'm gonna listen. I want to hear what he's got to say."
And I don't know who the guitar player was on this either, but another amazing player.
Absolutely.
That opening lick on Right Down the Line is just so perfect. And then Baker Street, that one gnarly bend in the middle of the solo, that ow, 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 it's just fucking awesome.
The cover art is out of sight. Like the way that they managed to show him squatting like that without like a camel toe or whatever. It's really quality. Like, oh, okay, but it's still not obscene.
Yeah, there's another good follow-up to this. I forget what it's called, but it has similar art and it has that song Get It Right Next Time. You ever heard that one? Friggin' wonderful Jerry Rafferty tune. So yeah. Now these guys, gosh, they're yachty in many ways. The word cruise in the title, the palm trees. What do you think?
They're very, very, very yachty. Very, 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 very yachty.
And a super talented band too.
And super talented band. You go find the live version of Love Will Find a Way. It sounds exactly like the recorded version of Love Will Find a Way. They're fucking bad to the bone.
They really are. And this is a good 10 years before Trevor Rabin would write a song for Yes with the same title. From their big Generator album.
Oh, I know all that stuff.
Yeah. You gotta like some of that prog. I saw 2112 in your email, so you must like a little of that.
I'm a proggy bastard.
Yeah. I grew up on that stuff, and I kind of fly the flag for it even all these years later because I just think it's some of the greatest music ever made, and it never gets talked about enough.
I can't believe you got to talk to Trevor Rabin and Rick Wakeman and John Anderson and Steve Hackett and all the fucking guitar nerds from our childhood. So good on you.
Well, thank you. It's been a real treat, and I started a website 20 years ago called Progressive Ears, which kind of became the hub for progressive rock talk on the internet. And I guess I kind of parlayed a bit of that into getting some of the people on my show now. It's like, we've been talking about you and speculating about you for 20 years. Let's cut the shit and talk.
Well, I'm so impressed that they sat down to chat with you because they're no joke. I mean, Trevor Rabin is like not just a guitar playing dork from Yes. I mean, like he produced those Crazy Seal songs and that's Trevor Horn. But still, I mean, those
on that record too, though.
But all those guys together, what a community
Yeah.
that brought Yes back to the front of music for a second. Go around the track, like you said. Like
Right. Genesis, Yes. There's it's a short list of 70s guys that got to go around the track twice and reinvent themselves for the 80s. But Yes was right there. Trevor Horn obviously had a lot to do with that. But yeah, love that stuff. I could go on. You saw I did a show about the history of Yes.
Oh yeah. That's going to be the third show, I think.
Yeah, 3 hours in, we only got to 1980. And I'm just like, guys, we're going to have to wrap this up later. I was foolish to think we could squeeze so much into such a short period. I don't even know.
Third show.
I don't even know if we could wrap up the rest of it in 2 hours next time. We'll have to wait and see. But I think those albums from the 70s are the ones that most people think about. So they really needed to be dug into. We'll see how it goes. Man, I love Gino Vanelli, man. He is just an amazing musician. He kind of got yachty towards the end of the 70s with some ballads, but man, he had a smoking fusion band. And his brother Joe was a synth pioneer. I don't know if you ever noticed, but most of his albums don't even have real bass on them. They have like Moog bass, and it's just a blend of all these different textures and stuff. But what do you think about Gino?
I love it. We play I Just Want to Stop, and it's such a fantastic marriage of styles. There's so much soul in that song, and he's an incredible performer to begin with. Just like he's out of his mind, honestly.
In the best way. Yeah,
In the best way. I'm trying to find the name of the singers that sang the background stuff. I think it's these girls who sang on a ton of R&B stuff from the era, and all I know is that when our girls try to sing those notes, they're really like, what the fuck? That's really high. There's really crazy background vocals in this song. For your love, it's so high.
Oh yeah, that one. That's a great tune. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the best.
Yeah. He's just fusion quality playing wrapped up in some really catchy tunes.
Absolutely.
Big fan. He had some more hits on the way too. We'll look at another one here. I think. Well, I don't know if we'll get to another one or not, but he has an album, Nightwalker, that came out in '81 that has "Living Inside Myself," and that's another biggie for him.
Inside myself.
Yeah, man, what a great tune, and it's got Vinnie Colaiuta on drums. So
Wait, Vinnie Colaiuta plays on "Living Inside Myself"?
I think he's on that whole Nightwalker record. Yep.
Really?
I think he is. And you check out a tune called Santa Rosa. It's the most smoking fusion showcase I've heard from a lot of people. And it's still a super catchy tune too. But
He's the most musical of the fusion drummer heads.
I would agree. Out of all those guys that play with Zappa, I think he was probably the coolest in some ways. Although, I mean, every drummer that played with Zappa was frigging amazing. Chester Thompson, I mean, come on.
Terry Bones, yeah, but
Yeah.
still, Vinny played on more pop songs.
True. And all the stuff he did with Sting, 10 Summoner's Tales, and all those albums are impeccable. Love them.
Absolute,
Yeah.
brilliant music.
Now, here we are. This may be the definitive yacht rock song because it encapsulates the style musically and also lyrically. What do you think?
I think it checks all the boxes. And he was on a cruise ship with us recently in the last couple of years and had Keith Carlock playing drums with him.
Nice. Wow.
And he was really, really good.
Christopher Cross is a friggin' great guitar player too.
Yeah, he is definitely a great guitar player. He has a lot of really interesting alternate tunings, and Sailing is one of those examples of an alternate tuning. Monkey Boy has figured out a way to do it with a capo in standard tuning, but I'm pretty sure that Sailing is a really nerdy tuning to get you to those voicings. And they're so integral to the vibe of that song and Arthur's theme and all right, they were gonna make it.
Look up, find this time.
Yeah, there's come on, those are all super yachty songs.
When you think of Laura, laugh, don't cry. I know she'd want it that way.
That's the way she would want it.
Yeah.
He won a damn Grammy for this record and all the things that happened, and it was the It album of 1979, and he deserves it.
Yeah, I forgot to add Ride Like the Wind to the list underneath here.
What a great song.
Another biggie.
We played that one as well.
Great guitar solo too. Did you ever hear the story about Deep Purple coming to Dallas, where Christopher Cross lived in the 70s, and somehow Richie Blackmore couldn't make it, so Christopher Cross sat in with Deep Purple?
Nuh-uh. No way.
Look it up on Wiki. You'll
Look that shit up. That's crazy.
kid you not. Yeah, we'll talk about a bizarre moment, But it's like, I know Smoke on the Water. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So here's another David Foster production. I think this is one of his best, And Champlin, he helped write After the Love Is Gone. There was like 3 people that co-wrote that song. And if you like modulations, this is a song for you, man, because it just keeps going.
It knows how to do it right. And David Foster in general, I think, wrote this crazy Bible in how to change keys in a pop rock song and not sound fucking weird. It's insane how good he is. And Bill Champlin describes those chord changes as David Fosterisms. And there's a lot of the things that he plays on keyboard. He's like, I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I don't know, it's something David fucking did. And he'll just play it and like it's this, and then I'll have to figure out what he's doing. Just look at his hands or whatever. But it's an insane amount of influence and a wonderful marriage of influences of those voices and Bill Champlin and David Foster and all those cats making
great
perfect pop song.
And Earth, Wind & Fire was frigging awesome from the get-go. They didn't, David Foster kind of helped them get another lap around the track, but they made some amazing albums on their own up to this point. Pretty much everything they had done was great, but this definitely kind of retooled them for a new decade. And pretty soon after,
it sounded more like them than like David Foster. Like, it's not like you're like, oh, that's a David Foster song, in the way that you listen to Chicago and you're like, oh, there's the David Foster Chicago.
Like, oh, he did a number on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the Stone is another great tune on this too. The opening track.
Oh yeah.
Man, with the horns and everything. Man, love it.
The best horns.
Well, here we are with the Little River Band.
There you go.
Australian yacht rock. Well, there's certainly lots of coastline in Australia. So, it's not much of a stretch there.
They get it without the internal memo. Like, for whatever reason, everything about several gazillion Little River Band songs hits all the checks of yacht rock and Cool Change and Lady and there's so many great yacht rock jams. Happy Anniversary and the other guy. All of it's all good.
Yeah, great stuff. Do you know what a sleeper catcher is?
What's that?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, they're playing. It has something to do with the card game that they're playing, and I think like one person is the sleeper catcher. Like I think you have a certain time to react when it's your turn, and if you're late, then the sleeper catcher calls you out, and you lose your turn.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, another.
Street gambling lingo.
Yeah, exactly. So cool. And how about this one? This is one where most people probably don't know him by name. And if you heard him, you would think he was black, but he's not. And you remember this one?
I do remember the song, and I think it's like a lot of one hit wonders that get confused with other artists that they are just similar to.
Sure. Yeah, this is the
What a
one.
good song.
The one. I just called to let you know.
Yeah.
Got a thing for you, girl, and I can't let it go, or something to that effect. Yeah, it's like I didn't. I saw it on the list. It's like I don't think I know this, and then it got to the chorus, and it's like, oh, of course I've heard this. And here we go, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't the only one that he did, but I'd say that, escapes the biggie for
You
obvious
know,
reasons.
there's a couple of articles floating around about how that this song, when the night they went in to record it, they had a drunk drummer and a sober drummer, and the drunk drummer got poured into a cab and sent home, and the sober drummer played something later, and then they took whatever they recorded the night before the next day and cut it into a loop, and that became this song because the night after the session was when he went home and wrote the lyric based on the Village Voice article that he had read about the personal ad.
Yeah. Oh man,
But
it's
like, what the hell?
yeah,
Why does this fit? I don't know. Yes, it does.
yeah. Well, just the pina coladas alone and all that, I guess, and kind of is a yachty
It
thing.
has a lot of space. It has a lot of groove.
Yeah. He's got another tune that's pretty big from this called "Him." You remember that?
Yeah, the Guardians of the Galaxy again strikes again and just
Yeah,
turned that into like money. But what a great song!
yeah, that is a really good one. That gets overlooked quite a bit, I think. Um, Here's one more instrumental that I got to throw in here. Man, this is the guy that did Whipped Cream and Other Delights back in the 60s. Remember the album cover where the
Yeah,
girl's totally covered in whipped cream?
baby.
And he did a lot of different stuff over the years, but this was kind of his disco era hit. And still, you hear it on WCLK to this day and at various remixes and recastings. But yeah, one of my favorites. That whole album is really good, actually. Um, so here's one that I see you guys doing in your set list, and I would call this a crossover hit from the country genre. What do you say?
Kind of Reagan rock also
Yeah,
because of the period. But yes, love it, and it gets an extreme reaction because it should. It's a fantastic live song, and Eddie Rabbitt had four, five, six, seven fantastic hits, every which way but loose, and driving my life away,
yeah,
and
great.
like what, and he had one of those classic Nashville pop voices that is really impossible to emulate. He's fantastic.
Yeah, really cool. So yeah, it's rare to have a country crossover, but he was kind of country rock, I guess.
Southern Yacht.
Yeah. All right, here's another one. I noticed you guys do this one, and I thought, well, this is as yacht as this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Give Me the Night's super yachty, and we haven't learned it just randomly, but we learned Turn Your Love Around because Bill Chamblin's a co-writer on it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
And when we had him out for a show, he was like, "Yeah, let's do that song and do it in this version." And he taught us the version that he does, and it's I think a half step down from the recorded version. And what a fucking jam!
yeah, great tune. Yeah, I love both of those. How about this guy?
Oh, Atlanta,
Yeah, tell us
Atlanta.
more.
The Yacht Rock guys don't play this song, but I picked it up for Forever '78 and use it for my podcast all the time. And what a great song! Just a lot of cool harmonies, a lot of cool chord changes, nice fat modulation towards the end to freak you out.
Very nice. And 65 Love Affair. I think that's a
Oh, he's got so many good songs.
super fun song. I remember hearing that in high
I
school.
Go Crazy and
Yeah, I remember I was on a break in high school, like got a pass to go to the office or something, and we had a PA system in the hall that would just play FM radio during the day when they weren't yammering over it. And I remember that 65 Love Affair came on, and I just stood under the speaker and listened to the whole thing. I'm like, I got to get this. This is really great. And it's actually a remake of a tune called 55 Love Affair that somebody else did
oh, I didn't know that.
previously. Yeah, he kind of updated it. So, yeah. Well, here's a friend of yours. And,
Indeed.
and I was surprised that this was 1981. I would have guessed it was like 77, 78, around there, you know.
I don't think Steal Away's on Street Corner Heroes.
Oh, really? Okay, well, I might have it out of whack then.
I think Steal Away is from 1980 on a previous record, and Robbie played with a group of guys. It's interesting when you start talking to him. One of the first bands he was in 1969, right out of the Navy, was a Nile Rodgers group. Like he's friends with
Oh,
Nile
wow.
Rodgers and had played with him, and then they played together briefly in New York, and then Robbie moved out to California and met Brian Ray, who plays right now with
Paul
Paul
McCartney.
McCartney. Yeah, and Brian played on the first album, and Rick Chudikoff and Peter Bernetta helped him make the first album in Los Angeles in the same studio that Prince made his first album, like Controversy. And in this, like, Prince would come in at night and they were in the studio during the day, like the same fucking weeks. They were cutting that record in North Hollywood, and Robbie is just like salt of the earth. There's some great songs on Street Corner Heroes that we've played, and there's some great extra songs on the first album that we've played with him. I probably know more Robbie Dupree deep cuts on bass than most yacht rock artists, because he's such a gateway drug for us.
Now, is he local?
He lives in Woodstock, New York,
No, okay.
and the interesting story about how we met him is that we got hired to play a Weezer cruise, the first Weezer cruise, and we went on this Weezer boat, and Brian Ray just happened to be on as a guest, like as like a passenger, because he's friends with the bass player in Weezer, and he was off touring that week, and he was like, "Come on this cruise," and so he came on, and he was like, "Man, you guys are fucking great," and Josh Freese sat in with us, and Brian Ray was like, "I know you guys know I played on Steal Away. Please don't ask me to play with you." And we were like, "Okay, cool, Brian. We'll leave you alone." But then after he got off the cruise ship, he called Robbie and was like, "You really should meet these guys." And so Brian Ray is the reason we met Robbie Dupree in the first place. And then later on, we had one of our yacht rock revivals in Atlanta, and we had Robbie coming down, and we called Brian Ray. We looked at his calendar and realized he was off, and bought him some ticket and came down. And he was like, "I'll go to Nashville and get the other guys. It'll be a reunion." He got Peter Bernetta and Rick Chudikoff from the original record, and brought him with him, and they hung out at our show. And Brian Ray played with us, and we played like some songs with Brian Ray on one guitar, and Peter Stroud from Sheryl Crow's band on another guitar, and Monkey Boy trying to hang in there, and it was just absolutely fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool.
He's our band mommy.
How about this guy?
This guy.
I couldn't have named him if you put a gun to my head, but once I put this together, I mean, I remember that song, you know,
Absolutely.
Top 40, you know, with the whole line from Casablanca, "Here's looking at you, kid."
It's Yachty in presentation, and Yachty in brand, Yachty in lyric, Yachty in music arrangement.
Yeah, it ticks all the boxes pretty
Yeah.
much. But whatever became of Bertie Higgins, I wonder.
Yeah,
It's
one
just
hit.
maybe the most unknown guy on this whole thing.
He looks good though. In that
Oh yeah, here we go. I put this in here. Yeah, so this is the one with Caliuta on it, "Living Inside My
so
Head."
good.
Yeah, great records.
We don't know this song. We don't play this song, but this would definitely fit in our show, and it's not a bathroom break song. It's a fantastic,
Yeah,
like,
man,
rock song that we don't play.
it's goose pimples. You know, there's just something about the way that whole thing unfolds. It's epic. Um, and how about this one?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you know.
Watch that show. I rushed to the television to watch that show.
Oh yeah, I love that show. You know, about the guy that discovers a magic.
Had a picture of actual Joey Scarberry. Jesus.
Yeah, you ever
I don't
seen
think
it?
I've ever seen his face.
Yeah, yeah, that's an epic mustache.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So yeah, now we're kind of getting into the '80s, and I
What a
think,
great song.
yeah, wonderful tune. If for some of you that are too young to remember, this was a theme to a TV show called The Greatest American Hero, about an average guy that somehow finds a magical Superman kind of suit and puts it on, but he doesn't know how to use it. So he it's a lot about the trial and error of trying to figure out how to use these superpowers that come with the suit. Like he'd fly and run into a trash can or whatever.
Yeah.
You know? So it was pretty humorous. I think he finally got his shit together and saved some people's lives and all that later in the show. But I just remember him fumbling trying to get it to work. Yeah, funny show. Oh, here's another America one. You know, they're like their big '80s hit.
Undeniable.
Yeah, that's a great tune. And by this point, they were down to a three-piece. I'm not really sure what happened to the other guy, but he was out
There's
of
only
it.
two of them there.
Yeah.
Hope he's
And then
okay.
here's another one that's not really yachty musically, but lyrically, it totally is. You know, David Crosby had a boat. It was called the Mayan, and he was a big seafaring kind of guy. You might remember that CSN album from the mid '70s where they're all on the deck of the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great record. And this one's pretty darn good too. This had a hit on it called "Wasted on the Way," but Southern Cross is the big yachty one. You guys do it quite a bit, don't you?
Absolutely. That's a very sci-fi album cover.
Yeah, I know it. Does it go over pretty well live?
The Southern Cross goes over like a bomb. It's incredible.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All righty. Now we talked about Lionel. By this point, he was solo and laying it down. And again, Steve Lukather.
Come on.
That solo on "Running with the Night" is fucking ridiculous.
Now, here's the story he says in his book. He's like, I sat in the session for Running with the Night. I plugged in and got a tone, and they hit go, and I was learning the song and like dicking around. And I got through with the dicking around track, and they were like, and I was like, okay, hit it. And they were like, no, you're done. And he was like, no way. And they were like, no. What you just played is it. And they were like, he's like, no, fuck off. I just was dicking around. And they were like, no, fuck off. You fucking played the solo. So the solo you hear on Running with the Night, the main solo and the end solo are both first pass, first blush, first take, dicking around Steve Lukather. That's how good he was.
Oh yeah.
He was at the height of his powers, and he plays a seminal yacht rock solo, which is as good as anything anybody's ever put on tape ever.
Oh
on
man.
Guitar.
I mean, that's a fusion quality solo, you know.
Absolutely. First try.
Some very unique note choices in there that are straight out of the jazz playbook.
They're like, you dick, that's why you're here. That is it. And
right.
he left that studio and got his Ferrari and went home.
Yeah. You know, Rick Beato did a show recently where it's like 10 overlooked guitar solos that are amazing, and that was one of them that was on the list.
So good.
Yeah.
So melodic, so crazy. I can't believe like the height of his powers that solo was his like dirty coffee, like no coffee, like I just woke up.
Well, you know, I've heard that story with a number of people over the years where it's just like, oh, it's just warming up. You know, I'm ready now. And it's like, no, that's great. That's all we need. And it's like, what?
Thank God our guys hit record because and that was great.
Yeah, you know, sometimes the guitar player doesn't really know, you know, it's almost like, no, that was great. Trust me. You know.
Yeah.
You know.
The theme of that solo has a lot of theme to it.
Yeah, it does. It's pretty extensive.
It carries you along for a long way. You can sing it. You can remember it. It's intense.
Yeah. So this one here, classic 80s yacht rock tune. You know, just about anything that Michael McDonald guests on is going to be in the ballpark, but this is really
I don't know how yachty this one is. I would have to. I'm gonna disagree.
oh
Like
yeah.
genially, I will disagree though that I don't know if Yama. I mean, obviously Michael McDonald has a certain amount of yacht to everything he does, but um, the religious theme of the song is completely out of character
True.
with the yacht rock vibe, and by in 1983 we had really gone off the rails into sequence space and and I don't know that there's a real drummer on this song. If there is, I'm not sure who he is.
Right.
And, so it feels real constructed.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. All right, how about this guy?
Huh. This is the shit.
This winds up on a lot of lists, and you know, for a lot of people in the past 10 years, you know, it's associated with an adult diaper commercial.
It's so stupid because this song is fantastic. This song is absolute brilliance, and Matthew is such a huge talent. People don't know that he produced Tragic Kingdom for No Doubt. And
Oh
people
wow.
don't know that he wrote like 90% of the soundtrack for Mulan. And at the same time that he was producing Tragic Kingdom, and he just is just a brilliant musician that has such a bizarre music industry career story when you start talking to him about what happened during the Break My Stride era. And but what everything he's ever done is fantastic, and I love it all. And he's a close friend of Robbie Dupree's, and that's how we met him. And he's sat in with us many times. And in fact, he hadn't sung "Break My Stride" in 35 years until he sang it on stage with us.
Oh, that's
And I
wild.
have to say, for a guy who hadn't sang that song, it's a really high song. In 35 years, he fucking killed it. He
That's
still
awesome.
kills it.
Yeah. Well, he's someone that we need to dig into more. Then it sounds like he's got
Absolutely.
a
Follow
lot more
his
going
path.
for him. Yeah. How about this one? Somebody's Baby. Is that really yachty? I don't know.
Uh, there's some artists that, like you said, Michael McDonald, everything is yachty, kind of. Jackson Brown, I have to say, is the same way. Somebody's Baby is a staple in our list. So I'm going to say yes, it's 100% yachty, even though it's the beginning of what we feel like is corporate rock. The song "Lawyers in Love" also very yachty. We don't play it, but I don't think it would be
Oh,
a
this,
great
you know,
yachty theme
I
song.
picked this up recently, and I was just
But I
amazed
remember the video.
how many hits were on it. You know, it reminds me of the year I got my driver's license, and it's like, remember that song "For a Rocker"? For
Yeah,
a Rocker, yeah, that's on there. It's like, oh,
that girl could sing.
I hadn't heard that in years. So yeah, there's a lot of good ones on the Tender is the Night. It's a freaking
Yeah,
song.
"Tender is the Night." Very Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Last American Virgin.
Totally, totally. Well, I got one left. I felt like at this point, yacht rock was kind of petering out, and you know, almost like the '80s production was at odds with its very essence. What do you think? The,
Yeah, I think that it was hard to find things that are yachty that had synth bass, but this was happening synth bass. But if you look to David Foster, he was keeping it alive.
oh, sure. Well, here we go. I think this is maybe the last official yacht rock tune. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say that could be the latest.
And that was a bit of a gap between
It's very Reagan rock.
83 and 86. You know, it's like, was there any good stuff in 84 and 85 that was yachty that I'm overlooking?
Well, it depends on the release dates of Chicago 16 and Chicago
Oh,
17.
that's a good point. Well, I'd say that was probably like 1981 and 1983-ish, somewhere around there.
Okay, then
So, yeah,
yeah,
probably could have
this could
included
be the
those.
latest yacht rock song
Yeah.
because we were getting really close to New Jack Swing,
Right. Yeah. Different ball.
which is another genre that we love and love to talk about.
Well, very cool. Maybe we'll have to do another show about that. I'll have
New
to
Jack Swing show.
familiarize myself a little more. Um, so there it is.
Yes, another Will Byington photo.
Yeah, very cool. Very, very cool.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sean.
Hey, my pleasure, Greg. I've loved this music ever since I was a kid, and it's just, it takes me back every time I hear it. So it was great to kind of shine the light on it and talk about it, because as much as I love prog rock, man can't live on prog alone.
It's true, but this is a close relative, just like country and soul are together.
It really is. I mean,
Rock
there's a
are very
certain
close cousins.
I would agree. I was kind of talking about when I was talking about this show, it's like, there really is a connection somewhat when it comes to where the bar is placed, when it comes to the technique involved to play it. I think prog and yacht aren't too far off. As a matter of fact, my band does what we like to call yacht prog. So,
There you go.
I'll send you a link and see if you agree. We kind of sound like Steely Dan jamming with Rush at Zappa's barbecue. On a good day. Very cool. All right. So what's next for you? Any shows? You have a weekly show. Tell me a bit about the guys doing the podcasts and stuff. It's like one night you're singing, the next night the keyboard player's doing it, then the drummer.
Monday nights is the keyboard player.
Okay.
It's called B-Sides with Mark McCuya.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday night is Soft Rock Jams with G Lee, and that's me, and we explore some weird soft shit. Mm-hmm. And Thursday nights is Yacht Rock Thursdays with Nick, and that's our lead singer, and he does straight up yacht rock all the time. Mm-hmm. And Wednesday nights, in between Wednesday nights, is the Yacht Pockets with our drummer Mark Cobb, and he does an exploratory into the grooves that make up this music that we love. And you would really enjoy the show because he does go far afield and play along and talk about why. And from a musical standpoint, as a musician, you would really enjoy the show. Yacht Pockets on Wednesdays. And then Yacht Rock Thursdays. And then on Sundays, Pete and Alyssa do the couple thing where there's duets and couple songs. And
yeah, she's got a great voice too.
Yeah, and she's also from Indiana School of Music. There's 5 people out of 7 original members of Yacht Rock that are graduates of the IU School of Music.
Now, what's the difference between Yacht Rock and Yacht Rock Schooner?
Well, when we first started to get gigs that would pull us away from that Thursday night residency, we were like, oh man, we need to put a band in there because he's going to put something in there that's not as cool as us. And we need to kind of control the brand a little bit. And also we need to build a stable of substitutes. So I don't know if you know, Sean, I have a twin brother.
Isn't he the drummer?
He's a drummer and he's a great singer. His name's Ganesh. And
Sure. He did all those Lefty Williams jams back in the
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Pizzeria.
He's been the leader of Yacht Rock Schooner for all these years, 8 years, 9, 10 years now. And they play a lot of the same songs and are places when we need to be 2 places at once. And when we're not available, they'll go and take care of it. And Ganesh is a first call sub for drums and lead vocals for us. And so they're definitely part of our family and part of our umbrella.
Do you ever sub with the Scooter?
Absolutely. I'll play bass or sing lead with those guys all the time.
Now, the group that covers the Steely Dan, that's a lot of you, same guys, correct?
That's mostly the Schooner guys, honestly. And I don't think it's really. Martin Els has played 1 or 2 of those shows, but I think it's all contracted by Ganesh leading the Schooner cats.
Okay, yeah, I saw them.
He has a Queen show that came out great that he did with the Atlanta Gay Men's Chorus. That they did a Queen show recently that's fucking unbelievable.
Okay, I think I heard about that. Yeah, I'm trying to remember who else played it. Was Jacob Deaton in that on guitar?
Maybe. I think Matt Reed was the main guitar player.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of another one because there's been a couple Queen things in the past couple of years. There's another collective out there. I forget what they're called now, but yeah. Well, I saw the Steely one at the Vista Room. Gosh, a couple of years ago now. I met your brother then, actually, and Yeah, I've got some different friends that have kind of play with you guys. Pat Strouser on keyboards. You play
Sure.
great player, and my keyboard player Scott Ritchie has played with you guys a few times as well. I
Oh,
think.
right on.
Yeah, so yeah, very cool stuff. Alrighty, well, thank you so much for doing the long haul. You know, it's always takes a while to go through all of these things, but it's always a fun trek, I should say. And
Thanks for having me on, Sean.
my pleasure. You know, so stay tuned, folks. I think I already mentioned at the top of the show who's coming up next week. I'm chatting with the bass player from a group called Camel, which is a British prog rock group that has been bubbling under the surface, right under Yes and ELP and those obvious ones that you heard on the radio. Beautiful stuff. Their guitar player, Andy Latimer, imagine a slightly jazzy David Gilmour. He's totally like that. I mean, he just, one note just gets you right here. So
Jazzy.
yeah, check out Camel. They have a great album called Moon Madness. And I think that would be a great place to start for anybody that's interested. So check it out. Alrighty then. I'll send you a copy of this. If you could share this on your social media, I would love it. You know.
I will. Absolutely.
All right. All right. Well, take care, Greg. And I hope to bump into you again sometime in the flesh. And once the world gets back to normal. Or
Absolutely.
I even settle for semi-normal, you know.
Yeah, semi-normal will do at this
I'll
point.
just hold my breath. And that's it.
All
All right. Well, take care.
Sean, stay safe.
All right. See you, Greg. Take care.
Bye-bye.